Referees calling. I mean, with guys quadrupling and triple teaming, guys trying to hurt me when I go for a dunk. So I just said, I think I'm going to go to the NBA, and I'll get my degree later.
The second pick in the 1992 NBA draft goes to the Charlotte. The Orlando Magic will pick first.
Can you believe that? I can't believe it.
On draft day, the Magic then did the expected thing.
With the first pick in the 1992 NBA draft, the Orlando Magic selects Shaquille O'Neal from Louisiana State University.
After some quick haggling with club officials, he put his signature on a 7-year, $40 million contract, the biggest ever awarded to an NBA rookie. And he introduced himself to the league in a big way. As the youngest current player in the league at age 20, he became the first rookie in league history to be named Player of the Week in his first professional week. He leads the league in rebounding, is 4th in the NBA in scoring, and ranks 3rd in shots blocked. He has obviously impressed his bosses in Florida.
He can handle the basketball extremely well, and he's got his head up. He's aware of people that are open, wants to make plays for people, and that becomes contagious. And I saw a lot of smiles on the faces of a lot of guys when when he makes some of those types of plays.
I think as far as Shaquille O'Neal is concerned, really the sky's the limit. But it's going to be up to him. If he really studies the game and continues to work hard at the game from a physical standpoint and all the abilities that he possesses, there's no reason why he can't be one of the best players ever to play the game in his position.
O'Neal was born in Newark, New Jersey, and grew up in a family of 5. He did a lot of moving around as a youngster, too, because his father was in the military. While living in San Antonio, his high school team had a 3-year record of 68-1. Off the court, people usually like what they see and hear, thanks to Mom and Dad.
When I was young, my parents told me to respect my elders, and they told me to do the right thing, go to school, learn something, stay off the street.
For everything he has quickly become, teammates will look to him for guidance. When your father is an Army major, knowing how to provide it shouldn't be a problem.
The main thing they told me was to be a leader, not a follower, because it's easy to be a follower, but it's hard to be a leader. And I think that that was the most important thing that they instilled in my mind.
One thing that has impressed his teammates is O'Neal's playing with abandon and throwing his 300 pounds around a little.
He's young, he loves to play, he plays hard every minute he's out on the court, and that's the only way he's going to get better. And, he's out there diving on the floor for loose balls. He's the #1 pick. He don't have to do things like that, but that's just the way he plays.
And so far, Shaquille's been a very humble, low-key, hard-working guy. And if he can keep that attitude and continue to do that, he's going to be a great player in this league for a long time.
After only 8 games, there is still improvement to come, but already in Orlando, they believe they're seeing something special.
He's definitely the real deal.
Coming up next on Inside with Clyde, we'll compare Shaquille O'Neal to some of the other great big men in NBA history, and we'll bring along a special guest. Stay with us. Shaquille O'Neal. He'll be at Madison Square Garden tonight with the Orlando Magic. His first trip to New York, and he is psyched. Welcome to Inside with Clyde. Bruce Beck along with Walt, Clyde Frazier. And Clyde, what do you think of the Shaq attack? What do you expect tonight?
Well, I think he'll be taken to school by Patrick Ewing. I don't think he's played a player of Ewing's caliber. One thing that O'Neal has is foul prone, so I think Ewing has the moves, I think, to get him in foul trouble. But other than that, Bruce, I think he brings some agility, mobility, and hostility we haven't seen to the game since my idol's sitting over here.
Well, we'll get to that in just a moment, Clyde, because they're talking about comparing O'Neal already to Wilt Chamberlain, who scored over 31,000 points in his NBA career, a 4-time MVP, a 1978 Hall of Famer, a man who played on 2 NBA championship teams, and a man who is considered the most dominant offensive force in the history of professional basketball. And on Inside with Clyde, we've got a special guest, the Big Dipper himself. Wilt, what do you think of this guy so far?
Well, like Clyde said, the man has a lot of agility, a lot of mobility, and he is sort of a hostile hustle type of player. I want to see what his shooting game is like, though, by myself. I've seen him dunk a lot of balls down, but can he maneuver and really get shots free when he's going up by 2 men?
Well, people are talking about comparing him to you already. I mean, when you hear something like that, what's your reaction?
Well, you know, I don't know if they can compare him with me. The man's making $42 million. I made $42, Clyde. You understand? So there is no comparison. He's, you know, 1,000 times better than me as far as the money is concerned. I would like, though, to have had a chance to play against someone like him, Clyde, because I always like the big guys.
Well, Clyde, he certainly can run the floor. That's one of his great attributes.
Yeah, no question about it. Plus, he has an insatiable desire to excel. Not like a lot of big men in this league. He wants to be the best, and every night he goes out to prove it.
Will, you always look at a guy and see if he can elevate his club. Hey, this club is 5-2 and leading their division, so that means he's making players around him better.
Well, I think he's also fortunate. He has a couple of key players that with him who are also going to help him a lot. But you're right. He has elevated the club. He's brought a lot of anticipation to the league. And I think now he's a force to reckon with. But he has not played anyone of a great caliber yet. And this night, I think, will be a little different.
Let's go back to Wilt's era, many moons ago, and take a look at some of the big-name players and what they did in their rookie season. Russell pulled down over 19 boards. Chamberlain averaged over 37 points and 27 rebounds. And Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, his numbers pretty impressive as well. But look at O'Neal. And the big figure there, Wilt, 16.7 rebounds per game, because you're always critical of big men that don't go to the board. This guy does.
I'm impressed. I think that in order to win, you have to have the ball. And if you can go get the ball better than anyone else, your chances are that much greater.
Clyde, how impressive are those numbers for 7 games?
They're incredible, but what will happen after the All-Star game? You got to remember, this guy's never played more than 40 games, folks. What's going to happen around the 50th game when teams start to double and triple team him, as Wilt mentioned? And tonight he's going to get hounded and pounded by a good Knicks front line, so that's going to tell a story on Shaquille.
Now let's talk about the current era, the big 3, Patrick Ewing, Hakeem Olajuwon, and David Robinson. Here's a look at their numbers. As you see, Ewing had the fewest rebounds, and Robinson had the most points. So by comparison, O'Neal is off to an excellent start. But Wilt, he is yet to play any of those big 3. The club, the Orlando Magic, hasn't played a good team yet, so perhaps those numbers are a bit inflated.
Well, they may be inflated, but the only one thing I'm concerned about him, Clyde, is that can he stay out of foul trouble? You know, Patrick was prone to foul trouble in college, but he really adjusts his game very, very well. Now, if O'Neal can adjust his game instead of foul trouble, he is going to be a big influence.
Well, what's the key, Wilt? Because you were pretty good at not fouling out.
Well, the key is to not to make the silly mistake, not to pretend that he's some little guy where he's going to try to steal the ball and reach around guys. Going up the boards he really can't get, trying to block shots and not his to block, you know, and watching out for the good offensive player who can pick up the charge or pick up the blocking foul.
But the other thing I think he has to master, Wilt, is what you and Russell master. Learn to intimidate with his presence.
Right, there you go.
Not trying to reject every shot.
There you go.
That's why he was in trouble a lot in college, trying to block every shot that went up.
A very special insight with Clyde. We want to thank the Big Dipper for stopping by. Enjoy the show, because we'll want some thoughts from you later.
My pleasure. Thank you. Thanks, Todd.
Coming up next, right here on Knicks Game Night, we'll check in at the MSG Sports Desk with Mike Crispino. All the NBA news from today. But we want to remind you that this day in NBA history was a day in which the Celtics had a monstrous performance by shooting 55 for 81 from the field en route to a 135-91 win over Golden State, and it happened back in 1984. Back with more in a moment.
Jersey Nets, and a good one going there. The Nets have the lead, 41-35 in the second, but a quick start by Philly tonight, running the break beautifully to Hersey Hawkins. He finishes some Matador defense by Petrovic.
Leaded by 12. Here's Weatherspoon over Coleman. Chucky.
Coleman's sloppy pass picked off by another blow. Ed Pinckney underwent knee surgery. He will be out now for 2 months for the Celtics. Doug Moe back in the NBA, and that means the fun is back on the coaching sidelines. Moe, irreverent as ever, once called the Chicago Bulls, Michael Jordan, and a bunch of stiffs. But with Moe, you have to understand there are unorthodox definitions. Like for stiff, a stiff is a guy with no talent that can help you win. Other people will call stiffs no-hopers and dogs, and that's the difference when Doug Moe calls somebody a stiff. Coming up next on MSG, Shaquille O'Neal and the Orlando Magic in town. The first major challenge for O'Neal in the person of Patrick Ewing. The 8-year veteran goes up against the sensational rookie. That's next on MSG.
Midtown as the New York Knicks get set to take on Shaquille O'Neal and the Orlando Magic. And how are they feeling in Florida about Shaq's attack so far? In first place, thank you, with a 5-2 record. The New York Knicks coming off an 0-3 Western swing, returning to the Garden at 4-4. And the mission for Patrick Ewing and the Knicks is clear. Somehow find a way to solve the offense, the defense, and the intimidation in the middle that has been provided through only 7 games so far in his pro career by Shaquille O'Neal. Good evening, everybody. I'm Al Troutwig in for Marv Albert along with John Andres. And in this the season that said goodbye to Magic Johnson and Larry Bird, the NBA couldn't be more fortunate to have a player burst onto the scene the way Shaquille O'Neal is, John.
Yes, he's big time, and right away. That's the surprising part. People are always waiting for rookies to develop. Well, this guy came fully developed, and he's made his announcement in a major way, and that's why the fans here are rocking at the sight of him. So the Knicks have to get ready for a very tough man who has shown a lot of skills early. He's shown he can score down low with ease. He can block shots. He's near the top in the NBA in that department. Shaquille O'Neal can handle the basketball. How about this for a 7-1 man, leading the break and scoring all by himself? He can also play the role of playmaker like Anthony Mason likes to do from time to time, and he's done that already this year. He'll give it up. He sees people on the court. Shaquille O'Neal now 4th in the league in scoring, 1st, #1 in rebounding, and #3 in block shots. Doing a great job, and Patrick Ewing and company will have their hands full with Shaquille O'Neal and his very fine, elevated teammates.
And make no mistake about it, with Dennis Scott, Nick Anderson, and the passing of Scott Skiles, he's got a pretty good team around him. Now, the New York Knicks return home to the Garden, where they haven't lost this season, feeling about as low as they can feel after 8 games, after losing 3 rather badly on the West Coast.
Yes, the Knicks haven't gotten into it yet. As a team and as individuals, too, no one is really playing that well. But the sight of the home crowd and the home court environment always seems to turn a team on in the NBA, and the Knicks are no different. They're very happy to be home. It was a very difficult road trip in scoring and shooting the basketball, particularly. An 0-3 trip. They were way down in their scoring. They were outscored by their opponents by over 10 a game, and now they're not shooting the ball well at only 44%, while their opponents shot the ball exceptionally well, around 50%. So tonight the Knicks are hoping to get healthy. They hope the baskets are bigger here at Madison Square Garden.
And while Rolando Blackman in his limited minutes on the trip did not shoot extremely well, the Knicks hope that he can get into shape here at Madison Square Garden tonight. He will start for the Knicks, who for the first time this season will start the lineup that they expected to when this season got started. I guess the big question now, John, is how does Patrick Ewing handle Shaquille O'Neal?
Well, Patrick, veteran that he is in his 8th season, has to stay out of foul trouble, #1. That's key, that he be on the court.
Right.
And #2, that he doesn't try and overpower O'Neal, who's a big guy and perhaps a little bigger than Patrick Ewing right now. So Patrick has to show the maturity that he's earned during these past few years, and to also lead and incite his own team to higher efforts. Patrick can't do it by himself, nor can O'Neal.
Interesting messages being sent in the last game on the trip, with John Starks being benched in the second half by Pat Riley after the water throwing incident with Mark Jackson and the loss to the Los Angeles Clippers. Well, it is a return home for the Knicks tonight and the Madison Square Garden, New York City debut of one Shaquille O'Neal. And we'll be back for the opening tip and the lineups introduction in just a moment.
Good evening, everyone, and welcome to Madison Square Garden, the world's most famous arena. Tonight's game features the Orlando Magic and the New York Knicks. Here tonight's starting lineups. First for the Magic, at guard at 6'1" from Michigan State, #4, Scott Skiles. At guard at 6'6" from Illinois, #25, Nick Anderson. At forward at 6'8" from Georgia Tech, #3, Dennis Scott. At forward at 6'9" from Vanderbilt, #31, Jeff Turner. And at center at 7'1" from LSU, #32, Shaquille O'Neal. The trainer is Lenny Currier, assistant coach Brian Hill, and the head coach Matt Dukas. And now, please welcome your New York Knicks. At guard at 6'6" from Kansas State, #20, Rolando Blackman. At guard at 6'4" from Marquette, #25, Doc Rivers. At forward at Virginia Union, number 34, co-captain Charles Oakley. And at center, at 7 feet from Georgetown, number 33, co-captain Patrick Ewing. The head trainer is Mike Saunders. The assistant trainer is Jim Walsh. Assistant coaches Dick Harder and Chip Van Gundy. And the head coach for the Knicks, Pat Riley.
A very enthusiastic greeting for both Shaquille O'Neal and the New York Knickerbockers. Perhaps, John, many of the people in the Garden tonight decided not to stay up late this past week. Welcoming the Knicks back home to the Garden where they are 3-0 and trying to solve their offensive problems, which were aplenty in the 3 losses out on the coast to Seattle, the Los Angeles Clippers, and the Portland Trailblazers. And now at center court, what could be a symbol of the next era in the center position in the NBA. Wilt Chamberlain out with Patrick Ewing and Shaquille O'Neal for a ceremonial opening tip.
That's great. It's a great sight, Al. Happy to see Wilt here. As people know, sports fans in New York know, he's here for the tennis a lot of the time, as he has been this week for the Virginia Slims event. And why not stay on and check out these big guys wrestling here?
Wilt, in his pregame conversation with Bruce Beck and Walt Clyde Frazier, I thought made some good points. They talked an awful lot about endurance in a long season for a player who's never played more than 40. And Big Wilt will take his seat in the front row here at the Garden tonight to take it all in. We hinted at it, John, a few moments ago, the players that surround Shaquille O'Neal, who really can deliver when the defense collapses on him in double and triple teaming. We're talking about Dennis Scott, 20 points a game. We're talking about Nick Anderson, who's coming off a 30-point game. Orlando coming off a victory over the Golden State Warriors, convincingly 126-102. It'll be Patrick Ewing against Shaquille O'Neal. Dennis Scott with Tony Campbell. Charles Oakley with Jeff Turner. Rolando Blackman in his first start of the season against Anderson. Scott Skiles with Doc Rivers. And the Upper Deck trading card cam gets us started at the Garden tonight.
Well, the fans are turned on by the Knicks. Patrick Ewing controlling the tip.
Doc Rivers playing with a bruised thigh and what he said was a borderline cheap shot from Stanley Roberts. Blackman. He's 1 for 1 as a starter.
Isn't that nice for the Knicks?
And in the lane, John, where the Knicks have been able to establish little. Ewing jumps out to pressure Skiles, and the steal is by Rivers. Looks at Campbell instead to Oakley. Nick Anderson guarding Tony Campbell down low.
2 shots Oakley could have taken.
Ewing. He's ready. 4-0 New York, 50 seconds into the opening quarter. The shot. A little awkward on that shot.
Sure went a long way in 1 step, though.
7'1", 300 pounds. Rolando Blackman draws the foul. So Rolando, John, has given the Knicks a couple of things they haven't had in the past 2 games. Shots in close and driving the hoop to create a foul.
Well, also, Al, the desire to do that. That's almost as important as the ball going in the basket. That's what leadership is. Offensive leadership perhaps can be forthcoming from Rolando.
Well, foul by Doc Rivers gives the ball right back to the Orlando Magic. Scott Skiles, who distributed 30 assists in an NBA game 2 years ago. To the corner for Dennis Scott, who is less than great on the drive, and Doc Rivers across. Tony Campbell. Well done by Oakley, but it will be Orlando's ball. Dennis Scott was right there with Oakley.
With a big man like O'Neal now, his teammates have less pressure on them naturally.
Another steal by the Knicks.
As you pointed out, Al, there is some fine talent on this team, led by Anderson and Dennis Scott.
There's a good look. Blackman through the double team. Oakley spun away and was open, and quickly Rolando Blackman delivers. It's the one thing, John, I think Rolando does that's been missing also, quick with the pass. Doesn't take a lot of time to think. Knicks 3 for 4, hot shooting at the outset. Shaquille bounced by Oakley, who walked.
But what was interesting about that defense, Al, was the quickness with which Ewing and Oakley reacted to each other. Oakley was right on O'Neal. I mean, right at his belly button when he got the ball.
Orlando's beaten Miami, Washington twice, Philadelphia, Golden State. They've lost to Charlotte and New Jersey. This is the first of the top 3 centers in the league that Shaquille O'Neal has faced. Patrick Ewing. It winds up in the hands of Scott Skiles. Knicks quick to get back on defense. Skiles throws up an air ball. Nothing Knicks. Turnovers, the early plague for the Orlando Magic.
It certainly would be good if Ewing could roll into O'Neal and draw some fouls from the rookie.
Campbell for the cutting Blackman, and he is fouled on the face. 2 drawn fouls now by Rolando Blackman.
That was a sensitive call in favor of Rolando.
Nick Anderson is the offender. Low inside. It's Tony Campbell, and another whistle against the Orlando Magic. Dennis Scott is called for the foul. That is 2 fouls now on Scott.
The first thing the Knicks have to bring to this game and every game the rest of the season, Al, is something that it was felt was missing on the trip, and that is intensity. They've got to let it all hang out. They've got to play as hard as they can, and that's not just 3 or 4 guys. It's everybody. They've just got to play harder, and it appears early that that message is clear and has been received.
Tony Campbell's contribution in the 3 games on the coast, 25 points and 2 rebounds. He hits them both, and the Knicks have an 8-zip lead, and Manny Gukas wants to talk things over with his Orlando Magic. The crowd is into it as this one is underway in New York. When asked to compare Chamberlain to Shaquille O'Neal, Matt Gukas says,
no, unfair to both players. Of course, so when I joined the 76ers back in '66-'67, Wilt was 28 years old. That had already established so many scoring records and was really in the prime of his career, a physically mature man, very intelligent about the game, maybe the greatest player of all time. And Shaq is just brand new, 7 games into his career. It would be unfair to either man to compare him at this point.
Back to the action. A very energized Patrick Ewing rejected Shaquille O'Neal, who followed with a miss. And now the Orlando Magic first on the board with Nick Anderson getting the Magic's first points. Orlando Blackman traveling. It's got to be the coach's dream, John. You know, you dream of coaching in the NBA, but you dream of coaching a player who could bring to an arena, you know, what a Patrick can, what a Julius Erving can, what a Shaquille O'Neal possibly will.
Very few coaches get fired with players like that, too, Al. That's the good part of the dream as well, longevity.
Going to the checkbook, John.
Right.
Nick Anderson. Pulled down by Rolando Blackman without a challenge in black on that side of the floor.
What's nice in this case is that Matt Gukas is one of the nicer, more approachable people in the NBA. It's good to see good people get a break once in a while.
Ewing was stripped. Campbell in and out. And Shaquille O'Neal is in there with a big rebound. He's been doing that up near 17 a game. Skiles. And Shaquille O'Neal draws the foul on his rise to the basket.
Patrick Ewing felt Shaquille O'Neal and his strength while getting bowled over on that move. Skiles wisely setting up O'Neal. Time was he take the shot. But he's sensitive to the big guy. O'Neal going into the basket. Ewing just living his life, gets creamed. Woo.
Shaq became the quickest #1 pick to sign in the NBA in 11 years. Free throw shooting not his best number, only 61%. What happened right after Shaq was drafted was that the Dallas Mavericks signed Stanley Roberts to an offer sheet. In an effort to protect Stanley Roberts on their roster, the Magic had 15 days to negotiate. They did when 5 players restructured their contracts, and O'Neal quickly inked a 7-year, $40 million deal. 0 for 2 from the line. He's 0 for shooting so far. Knicks with the 8-2 lead. Blackman. Soft touch. Oakley with the follow. Again.
Jeff Turner couldn't deal with Oakley. Nicely Charles, that dimension of offensive rebounding is so important. The Knicks have been lacking it.
Turner. Now, when Ewing jumped out, it left O'Neal with a mismatch down low, but Turner didn't look to capitalize on it, hitting the jumper 10-4. 6:50 to go in the opening quarter. Ewing draws the double. Quick around the perimeter to Campbell. He's way off. And on the outset, Tony Campbell is 0 for 3. O'Neal on the run, swept away by Oakley.
Skiles looking up all the time.
So much for the other network being in your face, John.
That hurt.
That'll be a foul on Patrick Ewing, trying to help out Tony Campbell and defensing Nick Anderson. Knicks 4 of 11 from the floor. Orlando 2 of 8. Knicks getting those extra opportunities with hustle on the boards and with the Orlando turnovers. Dennis Scott wide open. He drops in the three-pointer. He's dangerous from out there.
Al, that was his 18th of the season.
And he's shooting at 50% with that number of connections. Doc Rivers on the run. 12-7 Knicks. Skiles pushes off Rivers. Gets help from Oakley. Turner. Knick defense very active.
Knicks are trying to get more fast breaks in their way of operating offensively.
Ewing rejected by O'Neal in what has been a rare power move to the basket by Ewing so far this season.
Now the hope is that Patrick doesn't stop doing this because of that block. The hope would be, if you were Pat Riley, that he'll continue coming into the basket. He will succeed. He will draw fouls if he continues to come in.
Campbell. He's 0 for 4, and O'Neal is way above the white box, above the rim, to pull that one in. Nick Anderson. And that'll be Orlando ball.
Well, Shaquille is number 3 in the NBA, averaging over 3 a game in this department. He was right with Patrick Ewing on that.
First off the bench for the Knicks is Hubert Davis. Tony Campbell with a rough start at 0 for 4.
Means Rolando Blackman now plays a little forward, as well as Hubert Davis.
And there he matches up with Nick Anderson at 6'6". It's not a bad matchup. Jeff Turner showing the outside touch again, 2 for 2.
There's one thing Jeff Turner can do in the NBA is that he can shoot jump shots. You just can't stay away from him if you're one pass away. You've got to be on him as if he has the ball.
Blackman for Davis. And he picks it up off the bench. 14-9, Knicks in front.
See what Hubert Davis is guarding a taller guy in Dennis Scott, who's 6'8", but there's not the fear there has been because Scott wants to be outside. People outside have been taking Hubert down low. Scott would rather live outside.
Nick Anderson going one-on-one against Rolando Blackman. 14-11. Ewing. O'Neal's right there. Patrick. He's trapped. Blackman with a good save. And a foul on Scott Skiles.
Blackman saved the Knicks on that play. Patrick Ewing had lost his footing. He committed himself to the baseline. That was stopped. That was denied him. He turned around. He was losing his balance, and Blackman came to the rescue.
Fresh 24 for the Knicks. Here's Davis going in with O'Neal there. Intimidated him. Ewing is open. And rolls it in. Patrick Ewing gives the Knicks a 16-11 lead. 4 points for Ewing. O'Neal still has not scored. And do we credit Patrick so far, John, with preventing the Magic from finding O'Neal space underneath?
Well, Al, Patrick Ewing drew the offensive foul. O'Neal getting a little anxious. But yes, Patrick's been doing a good job. He's also been getting good help from behind. Here in a one-on-one situation, O'Neal just ignores the presence of Ewing.
The first personal foul on O'Neal, and Charles Smith off the bench for the Knicks. So it's Ewing with Smith, and then 3 guards in Doc Rivers, Hubert Davis, Rolando Blackman.
See, one of the things Pat Riley wants to work out is the presence of Ewing and Smith together. That hasn't succeeded thus far, but it's important for the Knicks that both these guys play together.
And Doc Rivers drills it from the perimeter.
Now, I must tell you, on this road trip, there was never a sign of what we have seen thus far in the opening 9 minutes of this game, and that is the cohesiveness and the outside shooting that the Knicks are presenting here.
And it's got right into the hands of Charles Smith. Hubert Davis off and running. And the Knicks retreat. Davis. He's 2 for 2 off the bench.
Thank you, Charles Smith, for the pick.
Just under 3 minutes to go in the quarter. Knicks lead it by 9, 20-11. It is the Knicks' biggest lead of the game. Nick Anderson, a lot of clear outs for Anderson so far, and he is fouled on the drive. There's a timeout on the floor at Madison Square Garden, where the Knicks lead the Orlando Magic 20-11. In every mix. In scoring, he's number 4 in the NBA. In rebounding, he leads everybody with 16.7 a game. And in the other category that he's made a mark in the NBA, shot blocking, he's number 3 at 3.3 a game. And everybody has something to say about Mr. O'Neal. Ronnie Cycli says there's no doubt he's going to be a monster. He's as big as Mark Eaton. He's off by a couple of inches, but who's counting? And 7 times as quick, and he's only 20. Give me a break.
That's right, he is off. Eaton 7'4". And I must say, Al, having stood next to both of them, Eaton has a much bigger presence because he's that much bigger, but athleticism is all in Shaquille O'Neal's favor.
Yet to make a mark in this game with no points, 3 rebounds, though, and 1 foul. 1 blocked shot against Patrick Ewing. Nick Anderson with 6 points now to lead.
Now, he's the guy to watch. Nick Anderson's had a 42-point game already this season. In fact, it was in the opening game against Miami where Cycli was so impressed.
Orlando comes out of the timeout much more enthusiastic on defense. Orlando Blackman in and out. O'Neal up with Ewing. Shaq comes down with it. 2:20 to go. Knicks have hit 5 of their last 8 on the floor, and there's Shaquille O'Neal with his first Orlando Magic Madison Square Garden points.
Very impressive. Footwork is what was so impressive about O'Neal.
2 minutes.
Charles Smith, fake Shaq. Ewing can't take advantage of the mismatch with Nick Anderson fronting it.
Got to assume Pat Riley, if he had a moment to run out in the court, would say to Charles Smith, Charles, you're in that close. It's your move. Take it.
O'Neal on the miss. Smith the rebound.
There was a period last year, Al, you remember, a long period with Xavier McDaniel. Patrick Ewing shows O'Neal another move. Giving in to Patrick Ewing, bowing to him on offense. And I get a sense of that with Charles Smith as well, being deferential. Charles Smith has to get into it and carve his own way. He can't defer to Patrick all the time on offense.
That's part of the growth, I guess, John, that we've been hearing so much about, talking so much about, the give and take in situations like that between those two. Herb Williams making his New York Knicks debut. Patrick Ewing sits. Tony Campbell returns. Williams signed to a contract for the much-needed backup center for the Knicks, the 11-year NBA veteran. Watched everything on the West Coast, and wearing number 32, he's out there as the Knicks return home to the Garden tonight. Scott Skiles called on the foul. That's his second. And with 1:05 to go, the Knicks up by 7. Doc Rivers will step to the line.
Skiles is a physical player, and he's not ashamed to tell the official he's not happy about the calls.
Doc coming off a game in which he took the shot to the thigh. He only played 18 minutes, 4 points, 6 assists.
Yeah, the shot to the thigh from former Orlando Magic player Stanley Roberts.
24-15. Knicks match their biggest lead at 9. and illegal defense. The Knicks, that's their first infraction in that category. Well, the Magic will inbound. Anthony Bowie has checked in for the Orlando Magic. 3 free agents guards signed by this team: Bowie, Donald Royal, Laterial Green. Magic have had some injury problems. We'll talk about that as the evening goes on. Good battle along the boards. Doc Rivers is there, out for Hubert Davis.
Nice job by Tony Campbell on defense. Stayed with Anderson.
Charles Smith going in from outside with 32 seconds to go. Skiles breaks free. Turner is all along.
Oh, magnificent execution by Skiles.
Sees the floor extraordinarily. Shot clock is off. Knicks can run it for one. Charles Smith with a chance. Doc Rivers can't beat the clock. Smith had to go up with it and didn't gauge the time properly. Well, the Knicks have to be happy with a 26-17 lead.
New York Knicks basketball is brought to you in part by
Staff Sergeant Philip Harrison, Shaquille O'Neal's dad. What do you think of your son's NBA start?
Excellent, great. I know you can do it. You'll get even better and better.
This is like coming home for you, isn't it?
Oh yes, very much so. We're from this area here. Hi, Mom, how you doing?
You teach him anything?
A lot, everything.
All right, let's go back to Al courtside.
All right, Bruce, just underway in the second quarter. Nick Anderson, a high one over the top of the backboard. It was in a time of great tension in the city of Newark when the family of Mr. Harris and Shaquille O'Neal and his mom were living, and Mr. Harris decided to leave Shaquille's mother, and she had him before the two were married. He then came back, rejoined her. They married, went on to have a family of 5. Bounced around this planet quite a lot because of his military commitment.
Yes, Shaquille was born in Newark, New Jersey.
Anthony Bowie on the shot from the baseline, and Herb Williams has his first New York Knicks rebound.
Well, Herb looks in good shape.
He does. And he'll be out there against Greg Kite, another man who's been around for a long time in this league. Charles Smith. Battling inside is Williams. And the ball will belong to the Knicks. Matty Gugas can't believe it, but it will be New York ball. Campbell on the inbound, stolen by Skiles, and they say it is off Doc Rivers. Bill Oakes, Luis Grillo, Bill Spooner, the officials tonight, assigned by the NBA. Skiles draws 2. Anderson. Well short on the three-pointer, and out comes Doc Rivers with Hubert Davis and Tony Campbell, Herb Williams, and Charles Smith against Nick Anderson, Anthony Bowie, Jeff Turner, Greg Kite, and Scott Skiles, and a throwaway by the Knicks.
Second straight turnover pass by Tony Campbell. Knicks have averaged this season 18 turnovers a game.
Average. Anderson is an offensive force. He's coming off a 30-point game with 7 rebounds on Thursday in the victory over the Warriors. Campbell in the game 0 for 4. Charles Smith on Turner. Rivers, Hubert Davis. And Hubert Davis coming off the bench, 3 for 3.
One good sign for the Knicks defensively in the first quarter. They allowed only 17 points, which was their lowest opening quarter allowed of the year.
Shaquille O'Neal and Patrick Ewing both on the bench, neither in foul trouble. O'Neal with only 2 points.
Oh, excellent hustle by Smith and the combination of he and Campbell.
Charles Smith taking a lot from outside. Skiles in for the rebound. 2 minutes deep into the second quarter. Knicks lead is 9. And he turned it over. Scott Skiles did. It'll be Knicks ball. Rolando Blackman, who started this game tonight at the Garden, his first Knicks start, returns, and Doc Rivers leads.
Al, do you realize how many NBA games you have to see before you see a palming violation called? So many
there
people,
should be more, right?
So many people complain about that, you know, former players and fans of the game, particularly from the superstars, you know. And that's a rare call. Palming gives you that extra couple of feet when you actually carry the ball in the art of the act rather of the dribble. Skiles, look at the feet. Got a couple of extra steps there on that one dribble. His feet were moving and the ball was still in the air, and he took a couple of steps.
So Scott Skiles providing a bit of a special moment for us here in the 8th Orlando turnover. Blackman drawing Bowie. Charles Smith with a jump hook over Jeff Turner.
Well, these are his best moments offensively.
4 points for Charles Smith, and the Knicks with their biggest lead, 11 points. There'll be a foul on the drive by Skiles. Williams with a foul. Williams wearing the number of Jerry Lucas.
His former Ohio State compatriot.
Skiles too hard off the glass. Good team rebound by the Knicks. Orlando quick to get back. And so Hubert Davis, who runs the point for the Knicks now at this stage of the game, whips it around the perimeter to Williams. And he tries a jump hook. Charles Smith goes down in a heap, and there was a foul against the Magic inside.
It's a healthy sign for the Knicks to see Herb Williams and Charles Smith taking shots, getting comfortable out there, getting offensive and aggressive offensively.
Danny Gucas sends Shaquille O'Neal back into the lineup. Jeff Turner sits. We'll see if Pat Riley counters quickly with Patrick Ewing. Be an offensive foul to Charles Smith. First foul on Smith.
Can't use the hands when you're setting a pick down low. That's what Charles got caught for.
It's pushing that number well above what it was on the coast. 48%. O'Neal trying to back in on Herb Williams. He draws two defenders. And a loose ball and a scramble for it. A 20-second timeout was called. And well timed, I might add.
Yes, that was Skiles at half court seeing his teammate in big trouble, and he's the one who called the timeout.
This program is authorized by Madison Square Garden Productions Incorporated solely for the entertainment of our audience, and any publication, rebroadcast, or other use of the pictures, descriptions, and accounts of this event without the express written consent of MSG Productions Incorporated is prohibited. Rick Mahorn has something to say about virtually everything, and when it comes time to talk about Shaquille O'Neal, he says, if this is what's coming out of college these days, I'm out of here.
1 week ago, New Jersey and Rick Mahorn met Shaquille. They beat Orlando by 11.
Shaq with 2 points, 1 of 5 from the floor, 4 rebounds, and a blocked shot.
He had 29 points, 15 rebounds against the Nets.
Be a quick foul on Tony Campbell. Now, these first 8 games for Tony Campbell have been a struggle. Patrick Ewing back in. Charles Oakley back in. And Herb Williams is out, as is Tony Campbell.
Tony Campbell, however, although not hitting the percentage that he'd like, and certainly his coach would like, is very active on the boards and an active defensive participant. Well, John Starks is still keeping cold on the bench, left over from the Clippers second half the other night.
Still a lock on the doghouse door. O'Neal out for Bowie. That's a 2-point attempt. It's pulled down by Ewing. And there'll be a loose ball foul charged against Patrick Ewing. It's the second foul on Ewing. John Starks is writing on the blackboard now in his mind, I will not trash talk. I will not trash talk.
John started 8 games for the Knicks coming into tonight. And with his run-in with Mark Jackson the other night in Los Angeles in the first half, while he sat the second half.
And this is after starting the first 8 games, and now Hubert Davis jumps ahead of him to come off the bench before he's even taken off the warm-ups. Illegal defense by the Knicks for the second time in the game sends Scott Skiles to the line.
Skiles is magnificent from the line. coming in tonight, making 28 of 29 this season, 96.5%.
He's had another triple-double this season. You may remember that great triple-double he had in the Magic win over the Knicks back in 1990, which was the first of his career. O'Neal drawing the double team. Out for Skiles. He's guarded by Hubert Davis. Greg Kite dueling with Patrick Ewing. O'Neal right now with Charles Smith and Charles Oakley. Greg Kite grabs the rebound over the top of Patrick Ewing. And that'll be a foul on Kite.
Ewing had the great position, the inside position. Shaquille O'Neal has a couple of people thinking about him. There's Charles Smith in front and Charles Oakley behind.
And all this defensive pressure has caused the Knicks to get called for the illegal defense twice. There's a whistle. Shaquille O'Neal drawing his second foul.
He asked the officials for an explanation, though. You don't see outlandish reactions from Shaquille, no matter what's happening on the court, pro or con in his direction. Very mature young man.
Donald Royal, another free agent guard signed by Orlando, is now out on the floor for the Magic. 7:40 to go in the half. Anthony Bowie and the Magic on the run. Rifles it out for Royal. Skiles thinking three. And Ewing grabs the count.
Very interesting to see the man with the ball now, Hubert Davis, as the point guard. Al, as you mentioned earlier.
Quick release by Rolando Blackman. And he is 2 for 5 with 4 points. And a timeout is called by the Orlando Magic. Knicks lead of 12 is their biggest of the game. Timeout at the Garden.
There are plenty of light beers.
Knicks moving the ball better than they have this season here in the first half. Lots of passing. Ball finds its way to Charles Smith. He feels pressure. Rivers gets it over to the corner to Hubert Davis, and he hits it. Excellent ball movement.
In terms of the emotion of the crowd and the game, there's a bit of a lull here in the second quarter, but not in the level of intensity of the Knicks defense. Only 3 points, and how much time of this?
4:45. One field goal for the Magic here since the second quarter began.
Magic shooting 1 for 8. Doc Rivers is called on the foul. That's his second. And number 3 is Dennis Scott for the Magic, who will inbound. Chris Corchiani back with the Orlando Magic. When I say back, I mean after he was drafted, sent away, and there's Shaquille O'Neal with his 3rd and 4th points.
How about that move? Charles Oakley met him physically, but O'Neal kept going and stepped in just as Doc Rivers keeps going.
Rivers leaving Corchiani in his wake, 34-22. Corchiani originally drafted by the Magic, then waived, and then battled his way back via the Global Basketball Association. Inside-outside work between Shaquille O'Neal and Dennis Scott. Scott uses O'Neal as a screen. And it'll be Nick Ball, a loose ball foul. Greg Kite.
Shaquille getting his big hands on the basketball, giving it out, then moving away from the pressure of Ewing, then coming spinning back in. See those moves, Al? Tough to teach those moves to a big man, but he shows a lot of mobility with that kind of motion.
Charles Oakley to the line for the Knicks. Shaquille O'Neal working up a sweat. His numbers, 2 of 6, 4 points, 4 rebounds, a blocked shot.
The Knicks are feeling Charles Oakley's presence on the defensive end better than they have of late. Charles is doing a very big job on defense under the basket.
Oakley with 4 points and 5 rebounds. He only took 6 shots from the floor in the 3 games on the coast. 34-22, a failure in that trip. Corchiani guarded by Doc Rivers. That'll be a foul on Charles Smith. A lot of players on the floor with 2 personal fouls. Charles Smith, Doc Rivers, Patrick Ewing, Shaquille O'Neal, Scott Skiles, Greg Kite, Dennis Scott.
Now, Pat Riley has not played Smith much with Oakley and Ewing. This is a very formidable front line physically. And what Pat Riley's got to be hoping is that they can click together. Can Smith and Ewing work it out underneath and give each other enough room?
Dennis Scott is writing a pretty nice comeback story this season in the NBA after playing only in 18 games last year because of a, and I'll need your help on this one, John, iliotibial band fraction syndrome. It's a muscle structure around the leg that will require 2 off-season surgical procedures, but Dennis Scott is back. Smith and Oakley battle for the rebound. And a foul underneath. That'll be on Greg Kite, his 3rd personal foul. Charles Smith will step to the line.
Well, specifically, that's a problem around the kneecap, and that just didn't heal for the longest time, and it limited him, as you say, to 18 games last year.
But you were familiar with that injury before you heard it the first time?
Certainly was not. That was a mystery to me. I just read about it in more detail tonight. But he's an outstanding shooter.
Smith misses the first free throw, and it's gone cold from the free throw line. Smith coming off of a game in which he was expected to play with tremendous emotion in returning to Los Angeles, but getting only 2 points and 2 rebounds in 13 minutes against the Clippers. And now
double violation on the foul shot.
A double lane violation.
32 and 34. That's Greg Kite, I believe. Although could have been involved in Oakley as well. Oakley.
Charles Oakley and Shaquille O'Neal with a double violation. Now Charles Oakley and Greg Kite battle, and now there's a technical foul on Charles Oakley for the
unnecessary roughness. I mean, he socked Greg Kite just standing there. He socked him with the elbow. Now the official is explaining it to Patrick Ewing. It's totally unnecessary.
Porciani to the line, and he rolls it in and out. So aside from a little payment for Charles now to the league, no harm on the call. And now Greg
Kite driving Oakley crazy by just walking in front of him again. What's great is how passive Kite is after getting that shot from Charles. He didn't even grimace.
Ewing steals the tip and a whistle. But now a violation on the jump ball to Shaquille O'Neal, or was it to Greg Kite? We've got a lot of violations here in the last 30 seconds without anything expiring on the clock. Well, Knicks ball, 34-23. They're up 11. Charles Smith tries to create a screen. Good look by Doc Rivers. Charles Smith with 6 points. Doc Rivers with 8. They lead the Knicks now. Hubert Davis also with 6 with his minutes off the bench. Patrick Ewing, a half dozen as well.
Knicks would like to get some fast breaks going, though. Some running out there. Get some easy points.
O'Neal in on Ewing. Shooting down at the basket.
You said it.
O'Neal coming to life with 6. Ewing struggles to find someone open. Deflected and stolen by the Magic. Nick Anderson in on Charles Smith. And a wild play in front, and Smith may have taken a shot to the face. He took a shot to the jaw.
We'll take a look at our upper deck replay. The trading card camera from up high. Pick and roll play. Doc Rivers, Charles Smith with the short jump shot. Charles looking good now with more time. Charles gets his hands on that ball, spins away, tries to get away from everybody.
Charles Smith of the Knicks has just been assessed a technical foul for throwing an elbow. Greg Kite may have been the recipient, as he was with Charles Oakley on that tip a few minutes ago. But another free throw miss by the Orlando Magic.
What we're seeing, and the players are feeling, Al, more than ever, is the official sensitivity to anything suggesting violence. And they're calling this play to inhibit that kind of play by the players. They're just getting all over them.
Smith rolls in. The first interesting thing about the play in which he was given the technical, he came away with the bruised jaw.
Now, it would be difficult to sell Charles Smith or Pat Riley the fact that Charles threw an elbow on that play. It looked like he was pulling his elbow away, actually. Nevertheless, Charles Smith is active. He's participating, and he and Oakley and Ewing are performing well together.
Corciani in traffic out for Turner. Dennis Scott for three. A rainbow pulled down by Ewing, and he is upended by Rivers. Only a great save for Charles Oakley. Suffice it to say, the sensitivities of the officials have been heightened.
Fortunately, Ewing wasn't hurt on that play.
Charles Smith, off his fingertips, deflected by one of the Magic.
You know, when a big man as extended as Ewing was and doesn't see what's something underneath him, he can really get hurt.
11:06 to go on the 24-second clock for the Knicks. Smith for Blackman. His release is short. Nick Anderson up there above the rim for the rebound. Corciani pushes it up, drops it for O'Neal, and he received that ball in a tough position, and he is called for traveling.
I still thought he reacted well, though. He stopped rather quickly, and he didn't commit a foul. Usually a big man who gets a ball like that will bang into somebody. He didn't.
17 turnovers in the game. 10 for Orlando, 7 for the Knicks. Knick lead is 13 points. Doc Rivers guarded by Corciani. Ewing in there with O'Neal. Dennis Scott comes over to double team, and for the second time in the game, O'Neal rejects Ewing.
And he's not finished.
He's running the floor, going to the hoop, and traveling for the third time in the game.
Patrick Ewing talking to the official, asking for a foul consideration. Of course, that won't happen. Shaquille was right there. Boy, when does that happen to Patrick Ewing? Maybe, I don't remember a shot block like that on that fadeaway jump shot.
Approaching the 4-minute mark as you look at the turnovers amassed in this game so far. Charles Smith. Ewing trying to draw O'Neal from out from under the basket, and he answers.
Impressive. After the fake, Patrick still had the poise in that shot.
Knicks tried to isolate Charles Smith inside by taking O'Neal outside. Ewing gets the shot, and he has 8 points.
And the Orlando Magic have 8 points.
And now Oakley and O'Neal, and Oakley's been tossed. Charles Oakley and Shaquille O'Neal simply said a few things to each other, and that was it. Oakley was given his second technical and a trip to the locker room.
Pat Riley's all over Bill Oates, all over him.
I mean, it looked as though it could have been the precursor to something, but it was fairly harmless chatter.
Very costly. Well, you don't know what was said, Al, and that's obviously what the officials saw
and heard.
This is the play now that preceded this call. O'Neal and Oakley speaking to each other. Even with animosity, it didn't seem to have the attention of the crowd.
And O'Neal was talking as well. Well, Oakley is finally off the playing floor, but he is not headed to the locker room yet. Dennis Scott hits the free throw now finally, and reluctantly Charles Oakley heads to the locker room. Ejected with 3:42 to go in the half.
Now, the lesson hopefully though for Charles Oakley is less talk and less pushing after the whistle, because those two incidents have gotten him ejected from the game. Meanwhile, Pat Riley, in a new coaching pattern here, hasn't played Greg Anthony, hasn't played Anthony Mason, and John Starks.
40-26. Knicks in front.
Rangers get it right back. It's a 3-1 Rangers lead. Second goal of the game for Phil Bourque, and they need this one. Winnipeg has scored to make it 2-1. Rangers have had a multitude of 2-on-1s and haven't been able to score. Finally, with Bourque winding up, watch the goaltender lift up. Now he lifted up. As soon as he lifted up, he froze his feet. He couldn't move his feet. The puck dribbled on ESPN. A change-up type play on the deflection. And you see the puck sliding over the goal line. Carlisle disappointed.
The championship doubleheader Friday at 5:30. The semis Wednesday. Tickets available at the Garden box office or by calling Ticketmaster at 212-307-7171. Well, after Charles Oakley's ejection, Shaquille O'Neal goes to the line and comes up short. O'Neal is 0 for 3 from the free throw line. They get 1 for 4.
7 points for Shaquille O'Neal. And the Knicks have amassed 4 technical fouls so far in the game. 1 for 2 illegal defenses, 2 to Charles Oakley, and 1 to Charles Smith. And that's Smith with the jumper. He's playing an outside game, at least offensively, and he's getting it done with 10 points to lead the Knicks. Jeff Turner guarded by Ewing outside. Magic around the perimeter. Scott guarded by Blackman. Here's O'Neal. And a 3-second violation on Shaquille. Waiting and waiting and waiting for that pass to come.
Charles Smith lined up with Shaquille O'Neal down low. Charles Oakley was doing a big job in that department, as he had throughout the first half.
Turnovers are one of the things plaguing Shaquille O'Neal. He's built up 5 already in the game. Scott Skiles comes away with it. Nick Anderson. He very powerfully banks one in. Anderson now with 10 points to lead the way for Orlando, and only 5 players have scored for the Magic, and one of those 5 is Skiles, who only has a point. Campbell on the save. Blackman creates his own room and bangs it in.
Slowly getting there, getting the touch, off movement.
Still no Greg Anthony, still no Anthony Mason, still no John Starks, and a very interesting development by Pat Riley in this first half. Turner, all alone is Anderson.
Al, it was a long plane ride from Los Angeles for Pat Riley.
Tony Campbell, get out of here, and a big rejection by Anderson. And then a scuffle along the far sideline by Turner and Blackman. It'll be Nick Ball.
Well, when you see Blackman bounce up from a play like that, you've got to assume his back is feeling well. And he did bounce up.
2 minutes to go in the half. And a whistle stops play. There's a wet spot on the floor.
This has been some quarter for Orlando. 12 points thus far.
After 17 in the first.
But the intensity has been there for the Knicks. That's been a big difference.
And while Charles Oakley's 2 technical fouls may not have reflected good timing, they certainly did reflect an intensity to compete in the game. You could say that for Oakley and the way he approached the game tonight. Rivers, Campbell, Blackman. And Rolando comes to life. He is 4 for 10. But he's hit 3 in a row. 8 points for Blackman. Knicks in front, 46-29. Behind the back, Turner is wide open. Jeff Turner 4 for 4, and only 1's been a layup. 8 points for him.
Orlando going up court, even though he's playing back court, letting Rivers do that work of bringing it up.
Knicks 9 for 17 from the floor. Patrick Ewing. Followed by Smith. And he is fouled underneath.
Ewing, actually, with all that time he had, Al, I felt he relaxed a split second too long and took some natural flow off his shot. The story of this half, and it's a happy story for Pat Riley, is that with extended playing time, Charles Smith has become a factor. And, of course, the arrival, in many ways, of Orlando Blackman in a Knicks uniform. He has arrived tonight.
And then there's Bo Kimball on the injured list. Anthony Mason way at the end of the bench without a minute played. 2 seats from him, Greg Anthony. Next to him, John Starks. 0 PT in the first half. 48-31 as Charles Smith has 12 now with that trip to the free throw line. Good pressure by Doc Rivers. That'll be a loose ball foul. Charge to Scott Skiles, and the pressure by Rivers comes up with that foul.
The second time this has happened tonight with Rivers stripping Skiles and getting a steal from him. The long arms, longer arms, Doc Rivers at 6'4", Skiles at 6'1", and Rivers is making use of that advantage.
Orlando has enough turnovers for an entire game at 13. Herb Williams makes a return to the Knick lineup.
You know,
Patrick Ewing sits.
What's interesting thus far, Patrick Ewing and Shaquille O'Neal, neither of them in foul trouble. would be an assumption you would make with the two of them colliding tonight for the first time, that one of them would be in foul trouble.
1:10 to go. Not a lot of post-up play that really forced confrontations between the two. They really are not playing the pivot anymore, are they? I mean, that's a misnomer when it comes to the center position now. A foul as Nick Anderson went to the hoop.
I would say, Al, that Nick Anderson never was known to shoot on
Yeah, I think he was committed to it.
If he had a pocket in his hands, he would have shot it through his the right pocket.
By the way, Michael Kay, who is here with us tonight working on MSG, went over to confirm that neither John Starks nor Anthony Mason came up with any sort of an illness or injury during warm-up or practice today. They are both available. They have just not been selected to play yet.
Mason, coming in tonight, has been averaging 31 minutes a game of play, and John Starks 25 minutes.
Nick Anderson has the best offensive game of the season so far in the NBA. Greg Anthony next to John Starks there. He had a 42-point game against Miami. Bangs in a couple there, and Anderson has 12 points right now to lead the way for the Orlando Magic.
Incidentally, Greg Anthony's been averaging 22 and a half minutes.
Charles Williams into the Orlando bench to save it. Nice hustle, but it winds up in Orlando's hand. Herb Williams, what did I say?
You had Charles
Smith, did I?
Charles Oakley on the mind.
Oh, sorry there.
Meanwhile,
sorry, John.
Anderson comes down and hits 2 for Orlando.
30 seconds to go in the half. Williams for Rivers. Outside Blackman. And he works it on Skiles and uses his height advantage.
Exactly, Al. He knew he could do it. He knew he wouldn't be bothered by Skiles.
Knicks with a 16-point lead in the final seconds of the first half. Nick Anderson thinking shoot again, and he drops one in. 51-37. Last second for Doc Rivers, well short. But for all the problems the Knicks have been experiencing lately, on offense, defense, intensity, prepared to play, they were on the floor tonight. What wasn't on the floor were Anthony Mason, Greg Anthony, John Starks. A lot to talk about in our halftime coverage. Bruce Beck with Walt Frazier and Mike Crispino at the MSG Sports Desk when we come back to the Garden with a big Knick lead.
And he's got his friends and family in attendance, and he makes them happy with the Rangers' 5th goal of the game.
And it's a good feeling for people like Randy Gillen to get back into the lineup to score in your home.
7 at the half. The leading scorer summary brought to you by your Tri-State Jeep and Eagle dealers. There's only one Jeep, and it's only at your Tri-State Jeep and Eagle dealers. For the next 2 men in the scoring brigade, Charles Smith, Rolando Blackman, 12 for Smith, 10 for Blackman. And for the Orlando Magic, leading the way in that first half, Nick Anderson with 16, Shaquille O'Neal only with 7. Bruce Beck joined by Walt, Clyde, Frazier, and Clyde. If there's one element that the Knicks have to be pleased about in the first half, it's defense.
Yeah, especially that transition defense. The Magic run and gun type of team, and that's when Shaquille creates havoc. The Knicks have not allowed them any transition hoops.
Well, we expected a highlight show tonight from Shaquille O'Neal and Patrick Ewing. Well, they do figure into the halftime highlights, although they don't dominate it. The highlights brought to you by Minolta, creators of the world's most responsive SLR cameras, the new Maxim XI series. Clyde, let's begin with Patrick Ewing working on the Shaq.
Yeah, the dramatic confrontation, Ewing and Shaq. Watch the poor D by Shaq. He should have denied Ewing the spin, so Ewing wins with the jumper.
On the other end of the floor, although he didn't start out real quickly, O'Neal working on Ewing.
Yeah, Shaq reciprocates the same move on Patrick. He did not put his body on Shaq.
Clyde, no doubt in the first half, the best minutes we've seen this year from Rolando Blackman.
Right, penetrating, devastating from the perimeter, this time with the dribble, which is not his forte, but Skiles not big enough to deny him.
And the Knicks also getting productivity in the first half from Charles Smith and working the ball well to get it to him here.
Smith has been lethal from the perimeter, but you see inside here hustling and muscling for this hoop, something he has to do more of.
Clyde, no Anthony, no Starks, no Mason in that first half, and I know Blackman and Smith are playing well, but this is clearly a message by Coach Pat Riley and clearly a benching.
Yeah, but I'm baffled, befuddled, bewildered.
Well, why, Clyde?
Yeah, why would he bench Anthony Mason, who I think is the most consistent Knick? Starks, I can understand, bring him off the bench. Greg Anthony also does a good job on the defense. So I can't fathom why those guys are not playing.
Clyde, you go 0-3 on a road trip, and you got to try something different, and you have to give Charles Smith more minutes.
Well, in that respect, I can understand it because he needs a nucleus. He needs to limit players playing and get about 8 guys that he can depend on. But I think the guys he has sitting on the bench should be in the 8 guys that should be playing.
Charles Oakley ejected in the first half. 2 technicals overall. The Knicks with 4 technicals in that first half, but they still have a commanding lead, 51-37. We'll be back. Over the Magic. Right now, let's go to Al Trotway.
All right, Bruce, John Andres will rejoin me in a second. I just got finished speaking with a high-ranking member of the Knicks organization, fully aware of what's going on with Anthony Mason, Greg Anthony, and John Starks through the first half of this game. This is simply a club disciplinary measure against the 3, for lack of a better term, trash talking. The Knicks are tired of it. They don't want to see any more of it, and it is not consistent with the level of play and the style of play that the Knicks want to see on the floor. Whether this is going to continue for the remainder of this game remains to be seen, but right now rather harshly treated are the 3, at least in terms of Pat Riley on the Knicks. But Pat Riley has the full support of the Knicks organization in what he has done so far in this game. We have some numbers to talk about as far as how the game has transpired. Knicks getting near 50% shooting, 21 of 43. Rolando Blackman starting tonight for the first time as a member of the Knicks, 5 of 12 from the floor. And John Andres rejoins me now at courtside. And John, that is a good sign, Rolando Blackman's return. And although he's not quite shooting 50%, he seemed to have the touch.
Well, the 49% is tremendous for the Knicks as a team after what it's been lately. And the rebounding led by Charles Oakley, who departed with approximately 4 minutes to go in the half, also impressive. And the Knicks defense, which held the Orlando Magic significantly, has resulted in turnovers almost 2-to-1 in favor of the Knicks. And they have turned that 2-to-1 into some advantage. 19 points off Orlando turnovers.
And the bench breakdown brought to you by Midas is clearly in favor of the Knicks. 18-zip.
Well, Pat Riley has to be very pleased with his team's play here in the first half. They have responded to the return to the home environment where, I guess, Al, the baskets look bigger.
Anthony Mason on the bench, John Starks, he and Greg Anthony. And how about the way the Knicks are handling the 3, John, and saying to them, no more trash talking? I mean, the team obviously didn't feel it sufficient to just get the 3 together and say, stop it. They've obviously felt that the 3 needed to be shown this way, in a very public way, that it's the end of it.
Well, fortunately for Pat Riley, it has turned out also to be a motion of effectiveness for his team by playing certain players longer moments in the game.
On the way we go in the second half. Shaquille O'Neal starts it off with the first shot for the Orlando Magic. Again, O'Neal's shooting 3 for 8 so far in the game, 7 points and 7 rebounds. Far below the numbers we have become accustomed to in his brief 7-game NBA career. Illegal defense charged against the Orlando Magic. That is their first infraction, so the Knicks will inbound. They started off with their same unit. Correct that, it's Charles Smith because of Oakley being ejected, with Tony Campbell, Rolando Blackman, and Doc Rivers against Jeff Turner, Shaquille O'Neal, Nick Anderson, Dennis Scott, and Scott Skiles. Charles Smith doing some damage in the first half from the perimeter. Now Ewing tries to draw the foul, and does, from Shaquille O'Neal. It'll be the rookie's 3rd.
At the end of the move, Patrick Ewing had another little deception, and that's what helped draw the foul. Patrick working in on Shaquille, little fake, and then the other fake at the end drew the foul.
O'Neal has rejected, and quite emphatically, 2 of Patrick Ewing's shot attempts already in the game. Patrick over the past few games has been better from the line, but he misses there. Ewing 4 of 9 from the floor, 3 rebounds, 8 points. And Patrick 0 for 2 on that trip. So O'Neal will play for now, at least, in the 3rd quarter with 3. Knicks out rebounding Orlando 20-14. No easy feat. Pressured by Charles Smith outside. O'Neal backing in on Ewing. They'll go one-on-one. Now Smith tries to help out and does a good job. Well, they say it's Orlando's ball. Last touch by a Knick.
Charles Smith did a nice job while guarding his man, also helping Patrick Ewing out as that play began.
Orlando on the season coming into tonight's game out-rebounding their opponents 351 to 286. That's a bunch. And at the expiration of the 24-second clock, the Knicks come out. Another good defensive trip off the floor. Ewing on the fall away after banging bodies with O'Neal down low. 10 points for Ewing, his first points of the third.
You can see the veteran Ewing winning just on quickness on his offensive execution.
Jeff Turner over the top. It will be Nick Ball. Knicks in front comfortably, 53 to 37.
You know, Al, I have never seen Shaquille O'Neal play before, but I think in many ways we're looking at a guy who's somewhat of a spectator playing with Ewing. I got Wilt Chamberlain agreeing with me here, Al.
he was listening quite intently.
He's kind of watching Patrick and kind of watching the game unfold around him. He's not playing with intensity, you know, which is what the Knicks' problem has been.
So Rolando Blackman will step to the line for the Knicks. Rolando now 5 of 11, 10 points. (54 to 37). Blackman coming off an 0 for 6 shooting performance in the loss to the Clippers, 14 minutes. But finding the touch definitely here at the Garden tonight.
This has got to be Rolando Blackman's happiest moment tonight while wearing a Knicks uniform.
Dennis Scott drawing 2, pressured by Smith and Blackman. Turner, he is pressured, and a foul will be called, I believe, on Patrick Ewing. That is 3 on Ewing, so both of the big men, Ewing and O'Neal, have 3 personal fouls.
Patrick signaling to Rolando Blackman.
Shaquille, Ewing swatted at it. I don't believe he got the ball, but the shot was effective and way off. Ewing was credited with a block there, his 3rd in the game. Patrick for Rivers. Campbell back for Doc. 8 on the 24. Charles Smith on Jeff Turner. Charles Smith, 14 points to lead the Knicks.
Lots of passing breaks down a defense. The defense gets softer the more the ball moves. And Charles Smith had plenty of room to operate after all that passing.
The Orlando Magic want to talk things over with 9:21 to go in the third. The Knicks enjoying a 20-point advantage.
Why did Hertz invent #1 club goal service? To beat the rush hour. See, every plane and everybody seems to land at once. But with goal service, there's no stopping at the counters and no paperwork. Instead, you go nonstop to your waiting car with your name in lights. Only Hertz has #1 club gold. The best reason yet why Hertz beats the rush hour. To Hertz, the rest of the day is a piece of cake.
A noble warrior advised, the art of protection springs from within. One must stay vigilant against one's unfragrant perspiration, lest one provoke a hostile response. Thus, a Norse ritual is Right Guard Sport Stick. An aromatic array of the freshest scents and maximum protection against disarming wetness. Confirming the wisdom, the best defense is not to offend. Right Guard Sport Stick. Anything less would be uncivilized.
Everybody used to come in and say, you know, the R in your sign is backwards. Kids play with the same toys everywhere. People in Japan are no different than the people in the United States, no different than the people in Canada. They want things for their children, and the lower the price, the more they'll buy. I buy the majority of my purchases with the American Express card. It's simpler for me, period.
American Express is welcome to Toys R Us and other fun spots.
Well, much talk about this game was about the matchup of the Titans. Our Toyota matchup tonight shows Patrick Ewing right now leading Shaquille O'Neal in points. Shaquille doing well in the rebounding department. Nothing like his league leading category, however. And Shaquille having problems with turnovers, 5 already, which has become a problem for Orlando.
Here's O'Neal again, this time bouncing off of Charles Smith. Another wild running hook. Shaquille is 3 for 11. Charles Smith continuing to deliver from the outside. Smith 6 of 9, and we're not talking 9 layup attempts. 6 of 9 and 16 points for Charles Smith, benefiting from the ejection of Charles Oakley.
Like Anderson. Jeff Turner got away with a couple of steps preceding that shot by Anderson.
Doc Rivers guarded by Scott Skiles. Shaquille and Ewing tangled down low as Patrick tries to post him. Draws 2. The outlet for Campbell. He's wide open. Follows his own shot. Goes right underneath O'Neal. But it is deflected out by Shaquille, and it will be Nick Ball. Tony Campbell having another nightmare out there shooting-wise. 0 for 6. Rolando Blackman in and out. 8th rebound by Shaquille O'Neal. Magic struggling, 1 of 7. And there's Shaquille with a slammer.
Nicely set up by Jeff Turner, who gets a pat on the back from Shaquille.
59 to 41. It will be interesting to see how the Knicks handle the prosperity of a big lead. Frequently, as you well know in this league, a big lead in the third quarter spells doom in the fourth. Ewing draws 2. There's Charles Smith underneath and around and up.
Well, the pass from Ewing was nice, but the move that followed it by Charles Smith was beautiful.
It's the coming out party for Charles Smith here tonight. 18 points. Whistle inside. This will be on Charles Smith as he tried to hold his ground defensively. It is Smith and O'Neal with Turner and Ewing.
Patrick Ewing getting a double team, finds the open man, and Smith with great deception moves in for 2 points.
Dennis Scott for 3, all metal. Shaquille with the rebound, spinning, whirling, and drawing the foul. Another foul on Charles Smith. That is 4 on Smith. So the Knicks in switching Ewing and Smith defensively on O'Neal has cost Smith a couple of quick personal fouls and Herb Williams back in.
Al, I really think that was an overly sensitive call. I mean, I think O'Neal was frustrated with that whistle because it stopped him from completing his move. I mean, that was a very sensitive call.
Well, it costs the Knicks their offensive force in the game so far. Smith leading with 18 points. Illegal defense, the 3rd infraction by the Knicks tonight.
Now, Doc Rivers leaned away, maybe 1 step away from his man Skiles, and the officials felt that that was illegal. Of course, the call usually being made when a man floats away from his man to disrupt the middle. And I don't believe that Rivers was more than 4 feet away from his man, but he was leaning in the direction of helping out, and that was called illegal.
You know, the reins in this game from an officiating standpoint haven't loosened since the opening tip. Anderson guarded by Campbell. Campbell runs into O'Neal.
All Skiles wants is the ball. He's all alone in the corner.
We've got a whistle on the floor. Mike Crispino has this update at the sports desk.
With Magic and Larry Bird gone, Long Island's Tom Gugliotta is filling the void. Watch him tonight. 39 points. A la Bird. Dishes, gets it back, lays it up. Big win over Utah for the Bullets.
Okay, Mike, Nick Anderson has hit 30 of his last 33 free throws. The first one here at the Garden, and this trip to the line was good. And a rare miss for him. 61-43. Anderson 7 of 14 from the floor, 19 points to lead Orlando, the only Magic player in double figures. Doc Rivers with Roe Blackman. Ewing on the jump hook, well short.
During that last foul shooting sequence, Rivers went over to each of his teammates and patted them on the back, demonstrating spirit, trying to get vocal out there.
Beautiful tip by Jeff Turner. Some pressure by Orlando now to change the tempo of this game, which has been drastically in favor of the Knicks. But a 22-point lead is 16 now for New York. Doc Rivers wide open.
Lovely return pass after he and Blackman exchanged the basketball. Blackman got it back to Rivers.
Still no look toward the end of the bench for Anthony Mason, Greg Anthony, or John Starks with what looks to be a one-game suspension, or developing to be a one-game suspension for the three. Shaquille O'Neal against three members of the Knicks, drawing the foul.
For that cam shot of O'Neal trying to battle his way in to get a shot, but he drew a foul. I must say, Al, that the Magic are not overreacting to Shaquille. They're not pouring the ball into him every time. He's one of the guys out there.
It's clearly not the offensive focus every time they come up the floor. If anything, you'd think Nick Anderson was the one who's been given the green light to shoot every time he touches it. O'Neal named Shaquille Rashawn out of the Islamic name book by his mother. She was a little off, though. It was translated to read Little Warrior. How was she to know? Doc Rivers guarded by Scott Skiles. Ewing takes it to the basket. Rebounded by Tony Campbell as he's stolen away from Nick Anderson. Pat Riley calls out a play. Ewing to the far side, picked by Campbell. Tried the give and go with a pick and roll. Campbell on the spin. He can't hit anything. He is 0 for 8. Nick Anderson at the other end, and it is 63 to 48. The Magic have shaved 7 points off the Knicks lead here in the third. And the Knicks want timeout to talk it over and slow down Orlando. Pat Riley letting the officials hear a little lip. Timeout at the Garden.
After weeknight Nick and Ranger home games, catch Sports Talk, sports news, and much more live from the play-by-play with Mike Francesa, only on MSG Network.
I was at a red light, and a guy behind me jumps out of his car and taps on my window. I roll it down, and he says, "Hey, what kind of car is this?" I said, "It's a Saturn." Oh. Light turned green. I'm like, take off. Get to the next red light. Boom, here he comes again. "Hey, how much do you pay for this?" I tell him. Go to the third red light. He jumps out again. "How many miles to the gallon you get?" I said, "Man, give me a break. Just go buy one. Leave me alone."
Isn't it wonderful? A tire so special, it may last as long as you own your car. The XH4. Congratulations. It's a Michelin.
Now you can own a set of Michelin radials and get more mileage for less money. The Michelin XH4 80,000-mile all-season radial is even more affordable now through December 20th. See us for details and look for our ads in Newsday or visit one of the 10 convenient WTC auto centers today.
Nobody beats Long Island Diamond prices.
My dad got my mom's ring here.
Long Island Diamond saves you a lot of money.
We got the diamond we wanted at the price we wanted.
Long Island Diamond is a world-class selection of all sizes, shapes, and price ranges.
A real winner knows how to party right. Please use good sense when you drink and know when to say when. A reminder from Budweiser.
Individual game tickets for Knick games this season still available for the first half of the year at the Garden box office. 212-307-7171, the telephone number. Al Troutwig in for Marv Albert tonight, along with John Andres, Bruce Beck, Walt Clyde Frazier. Patrick Ewing drawing 2. Nick Anderson swats at that shot attempt, and there will be a foul. It'll be on Anderson from behind and send Patrick Ewing to the line. Third foul whistled against Nick Anderson.
The one sense I get out of the O'Neal-Ewing matchup thus far, which is somewhat disappointing, I don't sense fear on the court on the part of anybody as far as Shaquille goes. And I don't get a swooping, huge sense of his impact on the Knicks mentally. I don't think that this is a behemoth that we've been hearing about that the Knicks are seeing tonight. Now, not to denigrate him, because he is what he is. He's going to be a great player. He's arrived with a bang, and his numbers say that. But tonight, he is not having that huge presence against the Knicks.
Patrick Ewing helping to slow down what was an 11-4 Magic run. And this will be a foul on Jeff Turner. Fouls piling up now. Turner with 3, O'Neal 3, Nick Anderson 3, Skiles with 3, Greg Kite with 4. Man in biggest trouble for the Knicks is Charles Smith on the bench with 4. Rivers has 3, Ewing has 3, Tony Campbell is playing with 3. Hubert Davis off the Knick bench once again. His first half numbers 6 points, 3 of 3 from the floor. Ewing with the fall away. Jeff Turner on the rebound.
You mentioned foul trouble, Al, for late tuners in. Charles Oakley ejected with 4 minutes to go in the first half. 2 technicals called on him. And Shaquille O'Neal getting in close, gets free for an impressive slam dunk.
His most explosive moment of the game so far. O'Neal now with 12 points. Well below his 26.7 a game average. Blackman guarded by Scott Davis. 4 for 4 for the Tar Heel rookie. Under 4 minutes in the third, the Knick lead is 16. As big as 22.
Picks being set for players like Hubert Davis certainly help.
Herb Williams back in for the Knicks. He's over there with Davis on Shaquille. Nick Anderson sees an opening and draws a foul.
Well, the impressive move by O'Neal moments ago from Scott Skiles into Shaquille O'Neal, works around Herb Williams, Patrick Ewing underneath the basket, but so far under he couldn't come out and bother O'Neal.
Doc Rivers whistled for his 4th personal foul. Mentioned injuries, John, and there's Nick Anderson, who had another one of those weird ones last year, a fractured right orbital that forced him to miss 22 games. Right now, though, the Magic are trying to deal with the fatigue of Brian Williams. He continues to have these fainting spells and is a mystery to team doctors. Terry Catledge out with a broken hand. Jerry Reynolds out with a sprained knee. And those are some important players for this team. Williams, the first-round pick of 2 drafts ago.
Very mysterious things that ail him.
Hubert Davis with his first miss.
He's been subjected to all kinds of testing, and nothing comes up clear as to what the problem is.
Shaquille grabbing his 11th rebound. Nick Anderson, and they clear it out for him to work, and he slams one hard off the glass. Very authoritatively shot by Nick Anderson, who now has 24 points to lead all scorers.
Knicks need some more life now.
Doc Rivers snaps the net. Orlando had pushed that lead down to 13, shaving what was 22 down 9 points. But now the Knicks back to 15. Again, Orlando feeling that Nick Anderson is the man they want to isolate on Orlando Blackman. And Blackman is called for the foul, his second.
Nick Anderson, the height of Orlando Blackman, 6'6".
Dennis Scott sits, and Anthony Bowie checks back in. Anderson 9 of 17.
Currently the 5th leading scorer in the NBA, coming in tonight at averaging 26 a game.
Scott comes in averaging 20, so that's 70 points between those 3, Anderson, Scott, and Shaquille.
3 players among the top scorers in the league.
Interesting, though, John, it looks as though Dennis Scott is having his right knee examined.
Lenny Currier, the Orlando Magic trainer.
Anderson hits. Pressure by Orlando with just under 3 to go. Blackman wide open. He meets Nick Anderson. Herb Williams is there. And finally, Doc Rivers with a chance to settle it. And Scott Skiles fouls Rivers as he drives around him. Doc Rivers on Skiles.
His change of the deception in his change of pace movements really bothering Skiles, who simply grabbed him. Al, I would think it's safe to say that this is Doc Rivers' best performance of this young season. So he, Charles Smith, and Rolando Blackman have really stepped up tonight with their best performances of the season.
What does that say to Starks, Anthony, and Mason? watching it all take place.
Well, Pat
Probably
Riley,
exactly what Riley wants him to hear.
Pat Riley is shaping his team, and it's taking some time.
Skiles sent the Knick defense scrambling. It'll count with the foul.
I think he's hurt. I think he's really hurt that left shoulder. Skiles working his way in. He's tough. He takes the blows, but it doesn't bother him. He stays with the concentrated effort.
3 fouls on Rolando Blackman. Skiles, one of the expansion draft selections for the Orlando Magic, makes it 70-58. It is a 12-point Knick lead. Rough shot in the lane by Rolando Blackman. There's Shaquille for rebound number 12. Jeff Turner too hard. O'Neal and Herb Williams battle. It'll be Nick Ball.
O'Neal runs so effortlessly. You know, you don't get a sense of lumbering from him. Guy's 7'1", 300 pounds. To say that is amazing.
Well, it's just another level of mobility for that position. What he brings. Thrown away by the Knicks.
Patrick Ewing being double teamed sees Herb Williams cut from the middle down low, and he just misread Herb's speed.
You know, it's interesting, John, when Orlando felt they needed a basket to set up and clear somebody out, they did not go to O'Neal. They set it up for Nick Anderson, who has been hitting. But now they have Shaquille O'Neal being guarded by Herb Williams. O'Neal was wide open, but the ball was out, deflected by a member of the Knicks. Rolando Blackman leaving. 5 of 14, 12 points. Hubert Davis, Doc Rivers, Tony Campbell, Herb Williams, Patrick Ewing. Nick Anderson down along the baseline, and he draws another Knick foul. Patrick Ewing called. That is his 4th personal foul.
Pat Riley not changing his plan tonight of using players. In the case of Tony Campbell, it's very interesting. Tony having a difficult night from the field, 0 for 8. Talking about Pat Riley's disciplining 3 players tonight, Al. When you look at the minutes played on the average, Ewing at 38 minutes through the first 8 games. Mason closest with 31 minutes a game. Could fatigue be a factor in the 4th quarter? It's Greg Anthony and Starks and Anthony Mason, none of whom have played tonight.
Well, reportedly, Anthony was with John Starks when they met up with Mark Jackson while he was eating with Patrick Ewing, which led to some words which elevated the matchup when the game finally came around at the sports arena. And Mason has been doing his share of talking throughout the season so far, too. Doc Rivers off from way outside. It will be Nick Ball. Skiles let it go, but for sure it was last touched by a member of the Knicks. So 1:14 to go. The Knicks will set something up with a fresh cycle on the clock. Campbell tracked down by Doc Rivers. Ewing sets the screen, and will be an offensive foul on Patrick Ewing. That is foul number his 5th. That is number 5 on Patrick Ewing.
Patrick Ewing called for that offensive foul. Al, a couple of Patrick's fouls tonight have really been the type of fouls that will drive Pat Riley crazy. I mean, just not defensive type fouls at all.
Eric Anderson, the rookie out of Indiana, who's seen only 1 minute of action, comes off the Knick bench. So clearly this is not going to be a time when Riley is going to go to those 3.
Now, this is a major problem. Charles Oakley out in the first half with technical fouls, 2 called on him. Patrick Ewing on the bench now. The Knick offense going nowhere the last several minutes. They need to go to work big time now.
Well, the man with the offensive touch earlier was Charles Smith. He's on the bench with the personal fouls. Hubert Davis in trouble. Hits underneath the backboard. Knicks in front by 11. Earlier in the quarter, they were up by 22. Shaquille O'Neal has no problem at all. It's a 9-point lead.
And the Orlando Magic smell blood.
Knicks obviously holding for the one. Campbell. Almost out of options. Hubert Davis misses at the buzzer. So the Knicks go cold. They've got themselves in a manpower problem here at the Garden. 1 quarter to go.
$45, eating 45 paid, eating 47 per pound, $4,700 phone, one time, young 47.5.
What'll it be, fellas?
Make it a Bud Light.
Sorry, this is the last one.
Well, I think I've been. I take that one.
What do you want to give for it? I'm a 2 and a 10, give me 10, a 20 big, give me 20 now, 30, give me 30 now, 40 big, give me 40 now, 50, give me 50 now, 60 big, give me 60 now, 70, give me 70 now, 80.
If you want great taste that won't fill you up and never let you down, make it a Bud Light.
Bud Light, please.
Sorry, boys. This is the last one.
All right, gentlemen, today is the first day of basketball. All 27 or 28 guys for 12.
Bruce Beck back at the Garden with the birthday boy, Earl the Pearl Monroe, celebrating his 48th. Happy birthday, Earl.
Well, thank you a lot. It's good to be here.
What do you think of the Shaq?
Well, he's a man-child out here. You know, he's the kind of guy that comes in and he makes a big difference in the team, and that's the kind of guy you like to be number one.
Hey, you were Rookie of the Year back in 1968. Where do you think this guy's headed?
Well, from tonight, I see he's headed straight to the top, and I'm one of his big supporters.
All right, Earl, you're 48 years young. Enjoy it.
Thank you much. See y'all out there.
Back to Al.
All right, Bruce. Earl is 48. Won't someone please stop the clock?
Earl's got new hips, and his tennis game is back in order.
4th quarter underway, and a very interesting situation is developing for Pat Riley and the Knicks. Charles Smith with an explosive swirl down the baseline at a time when the Knicks needed a hoop. He gives him one, and now has 20 points on the game. He's back playing with 4 personal fouls. O'Neal curls the pass from Skiles.
How about this for an impressive move out of the forward position? Charles Smith said, I don't want to be a center all the time in the NBA. He wants to play some forward. And did he show the Orlando Magic an impressive move from the forward position?
And there's the absence of fear you were talking about, John, with O'Neal. Smith went right at him on that move to the hoop. Skiles for Turner. Kill the Knicks from outside, 72-63. And the situation is that the Knicks have imposed what now appears to be a full game suspension for Anthony Mason, Greg Anthony, and John Starks, and it leaves them in a precarious situation where the Knicks could use a little spark off the bench. Patrick Ewing has 5 personal fouls. That means Herb Williams is seeing an awful lot of time. We are not quite sure exactly to what level of shape he is in. Charles Smith is out there with 4 personal fouls. Charles Oakley was ejected with 3:42 to go at the end of the first half. Good hustle by Doc Rivers. Knicks on the run. Hubert Davis is called for traveling. One of the rare turnovers in the second half after a first half that was full of them.
There's a sense of momentum now that the Magic feels. And the Knicks have to match it and even surpass it with their energy and their toughness that they showed in the first quarter of this game.
Again, the big turnaround in the 3rd quarter. The Knicks lead ballooned to 22. And now, in the first 2 minutes of the 4th quarter, it is down to just 7. 72-65. And with the lead chipping away, does the suspension stick? How about the temptation to look down the bench?
I'm sure it will, Al.
Campbell loses it. Tony Campbell just having a horrific evening. 0 for 8 and only 2 points with a lot of time on the floor. Scott Skiles. And O'Neal has it knocked out of bounds by Hubert Davis. Orlando will retain.
Have to make sure that second shots don't go in the hands of Orlando.
Patrick on the bench with 5 personal fouls.
How could you overstate the importance of Herb Williams now?
Cannot.
In a game like this, he is
they got
so important.
Doc Rivers now collecting his 5th personal foul. Rolando Blackman quickly tears off the warm-up. He's back in. Well, Rivers is gone. Doc Rivers also on that bruised thigh, playing a ton of minutes tonight with Greg Anthony not being used.
You know, it's interesting, Al, the crowd reaction to Anthony and Mason and Starks not playing. You know, you would think there'd be a chant developing, we want, you know? And because they don't know what you learned before at halftime about this suspension.
Still, though, even if they did know, you'd think they'd still be chanting.
Well, it shows, obviously, the respect they have for Pat Riley, the coach.
Knicks looking for somebody to get hot. Smith has been that way. Short there. Dennis Scott comes up with a rebound. Ahead for Skiles. With Ewing on the bench, you'd think the Magic would be going O'Neal, O'Neal, O'Neal. Look out below. And the foul.
Pat Riley's got a tough decision to make because this team is building momentum. They feel real good now. And they're finding their big man. Pat Riley counting the seconds before he brings Patrick Ewing back.
Shaquille O'Neal to the line. He now has 16 points. It is 72-68. Make it 17 for O'Neal. As the Orlando Magic enjoying a 15-4 run. Not one member of the Knicks on the floor right now wore this uniform a year ago. An amazing situation developing here at the Garden. 74-68.
Orlando Blackman. Big-time shot. Because he's gone through his career taking great pride in pressure moments.
Jeff Turner sizes it up. All net. Jeff Turner, 7 of 9. He's been a perimeter guy, 14 points.
He deserves a hand in his face, and it didn't come.
Well, a game that looked like it was headed toward premature garbage time has turned into anything but. And Tony Campbell has it swiped as he was looking at the basket. No whistle on the foul, but it was kicked.
Nice.
The Knicks get a break.
Nice look by Herb Williams seeing Campbell wide open. Williams gets the ball to Tony Campbell with the fake.
Oh, it was knocked out of his hands by the leg and the foot. 8:16 to go. Knicks trying to hang on.
And that was dinner for our favorite food critic?
Everything was wonderful.
Something else to drink, monsieur?
Yes. Make it a Bud Light, please.
I'm sorry, monsieur. We have run out.
Really? Well, that does change things a bit, doesn't it?
If you want great taste that won't fill you up and never let you down, make it a Bud Light.
Billy's Chili. Quaint atmosphere.
Is that a tip or did you just lose some change?
Charming service.
I got you.
You got me. We go together so naturally. There's nothing we can't do. I'm so much better with you.
Canon, the leader in office technology and MCS, a Canon subsidiary known for its responsive service. They're a team you can count on. Canon technology and MCS service. One is a great reason to buy the other.
The Postal Service would like to present 2-day priority mail. That's delivery in just 2 days of up to 2 pounds for just $2.90. Remember, 2 days, 2 pounds, $2.90. 2-day priority mail from your Postal Service.
We deliver for you.
For pickup service, call 1-800-222-1811.
Dutch boy in the paint numbers. Point in the paint for the Knicks in the first half. 14 points there, outscored by the Magic. In the second half, down low, the Magic really taking over with 19 points. Shaquille O'Neal, the main reason why. Boy, if you try and steal a ball from him, if you miss, as Charles Smith did, you pay.
Patrick Ewing remaining on the bench with 5 personal fouls. Rolando Blackman has it swiped, gets it back. 15-footer. O'Neal the rebound. 14 rebounds for Shaquille O'Neal. 17 points, another double-double. Knicks lead 74-70. They led 59-37. Since then, 33-15 Orlando. Traveling against O'Neal. That is the first second half turnover by the Magic.
I thought they may get him on that left hand that he put on Herb Williams' leg to stop him. Take another look at it now. You'll see Shaquille drive across the middle. Look at him hold. Oh, what a great move. Nobody saw it. He held back Herb Williams.
You know, John, it may not have been the clash of the Titans yet. As far as Ewing against O'Neal, a bit of a dud. But in the last few minutes with the game this close, Patrick coming off the bench, it could still.
Herb Williams with a nice move over Shaquille. A big 2 for him.
His first points as a member of the Knicks. And now the crowd chants defense, and the Knicks could use a little. O'Neal with Williams right on him. And Shaquille draws the foul. Patrick Williams second.
Riley's still happy that he doesn't have to go to Ewing quite yet. Weathering the storm thanks to Herb Williams. Now in his 12th season in the NBA. Williams figuring his way in to get his first basket wearing a Knicks uniform.
Shaquille with just that horrible touch from the free throw line. 10 second half points to go with the first half 7. He is 3 for 9 from the free throw line. That's well below 60%, which is what he averages, 61 to be precise.
The Knicks have not enjoyed the quality of a Herb Williams as a backup or a backup in a long time.
Charles Smith with a very friendly roll. 22 points for Smith. You cannot say enough about the contribution he has given to the Knicks tonight with Oakley gone. Skiles stuffed by Hubert Davis. Turner. The Knicks may have come to life now on defense, and they've been able to turn the defense into victory here at the Garden so far this season.
And look who the point guard is. Hubert Davis, the rookie, the shooting guard that the Knicks drafted.
Davis cross court Smith. He'll drive on Shaquille, and that'll be a foul on Shaq.
Well, Herb Williams, normally a very low-key guy, giving Miss Smith a pat on the back. Good ball movement. Shaquille moving his feet well, got in front of Smith, but committed the foul.
4 now on O'Neal, and maybe the most important aspect of strategy here is going to be manpower usage for both Matty Gukas and Pat Riley with the way the fouls are piling up. Charles Smith hits the first. We've got a timeout here at Madison Square Garden. At one time it looked to be a blowout. Now the Knicks lead it back to 9.
Now Ridley. Ridley moving in. Backhander hit the post. Rebound save. Richter.
Only the few will hear the cheers at Augusta. Nick Faldo heard them.
Remember, when you're having good times with friends, use good sense and drink responsibly, because friends know when to say when. A reminder from Budweiser.
Mike Crispino preparing his full report. Wild day in college football. Strange finish. Miami, Syracuse, Rangers, and NHL action. Mike Quick with the high school report. Comprehensive as always from Mike. And then after that, at 11:30, Dave Jennings starring in Jets Journal, brought to you by Nobody Beats the Wiz. Al Troutwig for Marv Albert, John Andres, and quite a story developing tonight, with Pat Riley and the Knicks going with what has now developed into a 1-game suspension, unannounced prior to the game, uncovered as the game unfolded, to Greg Anthony, John Starks, and Anthony Mason as an end-all warning to these three to stop the trash talking, which the Knicks are tired of seeing. And Pat Riley pushed to the limit in terms of almost being in a position to sacrifice the game in an effort to get his point across. But the Knicks have regained their composure when Orlando almost fully erased their 22-point lead. The Knicks rebound to push it back to a 10-point deficit for Orlando. 80-70. Jeff Turner on the running one-hander. Under 6 to go.
Al, every coach is a teacher, and Pat Riley has obviously felt the time to stop what has become a pattern with 3 members of the Knicks team. Most recently in Los Angeles against the Clippers, John Starks got into a verbal tussle with Mark Jackson. But the thing that bothered Pat Riley is that it deflects from basketball. It takes the focus away from concentrating on your job. And he just decided tonight was the night to clamp down and make it an issue and make it a public issue. And hopefully so that these players will concentrate more on the game and what they have to do than on talking and trying to distract their competition and their teammates and themselves by talking.
Well, you might be able to sacrifice a game in November for the lesson that'll pay off much later down the line, if it had been pushed to that limit. Right now, the Knicks lead at 82-72. 5.5 to go, and a great steal by Tony Campbell from behind.
You got to feel happy if you're a member of the Knicks for Tony Campbell. He had struggled throughout this game to add something, and he just did in a big way.
Hubert Davis running the show for the Knicks. Blackman forcing the issue and rejecting it is Shaquille O'Neal with his third block of the game. 17 points, 14 rebounds, 3 blocks now for the Shaq.
Well, Orlando thought he was by the big man, but he found he wasn't.
5 on the 24-second clock. Tony Campbell rejected. Scramble on the baseline. Charles Smith comes up with it. What, was he out of bounds? I believe that's the call. He was out of bounds when he was laying on the floor, and Orlando ball.
Fans recognizing Charles Smith and the return of Patrick Ewing now.
Well, Smith's foot was out. Patrick Ewing will have to wait for the substitution, and when he returns, he will return with 5 personal fouls. Shaquille playing with 4. Campbell with 4, Ewing with 5, Blackman with 4, Rivers 5, Charles Smith with 4. Matt Guokas has his own set of foul problems. Jeff Turner guarded by Smith. Around the perimeter for the Magic, Skiles. Posting up is Shaquille. Skiles dialing long. Rebound for Tony Campbell. A couple of good defensive plays now in the last 2 trips up the floor for Tony Campbell. Hubert Davis right after Shaq, and Skiles is able to steal it away. And now a foul against the Knicks. Patrick Ewing is now back into the game with 4:33 left.
Hey, what a nice greeting for Herb Williams as he comes back to the bench from the fans.
Well, he was not run over by any means by Shaquille O'Neal at all. Williams leaving with 3 rebounds and his first 2 Knick points.
When Ewing left, the Knicks were up by 11, 70-59. Herb Williams out there for over 8 minutes, and he leads with the Knicks up 10.
There were a couple of rough moments in between those 2 points, but basically the deficit is the same for Orlando. 4:25 to go. Hubert Davis feeling the pressure. Let's work it back out. 10 on the 24. 7 on the 24. Hubert Davis running the Knicks. The fall away. Rebound by Charles Smith. A night to remember for Charles Smith.
Gigantic rebound.
Fans at the Garden appreciate it. Blackman almost lost it. 3-second violation against the Knicks. Charles Smith was in there too long. It is Smith with Ewing, Campbell, Blackman, and Davis. Skiles, Nick Anderson, Dennis Scott, Jeff Turner, Shaquille O'Neal. Knicks up by 10. Shaquille rolling over Charles Smith. Smith goes down, holding his left ankle and getting his 5th foul in the process. And Shaquille is shaken up too.
Shaquille using all of his power to move toward the basket. And unfortunately, Charles Smith is under that huge body as he goes down.
Shaquille looks to be okay. Charles Smith is up, trying to walk it off, limping slightly. Doc Rivers back in the game, replacing Tony Campbell. And the fans with some boos, I think they would like to have seen things stay the way they were on the floor.
Noticing the Knicks players, John Starks and Greg Anthony, greeting Tony Campbell enthusiastically when he came back. Even Anthony Mason, way down at the end of the bench, gave him a little wave.
John, you know, Shaquille's just not worth all this money. I mean, come on, 3 of 10 from the line.
That's just his salary, the $40 million I'm sure you're referring to, over a reported 7 years.
He finally hits the free throw. Charles Smith limping up the floor, testing that ankle and trying to save it. Finally, Blackman wide open. Davis high over Shaquille. Smith the follow and way off. 3:20 to go. Nick lead is 9. Nick Anderson travels.
He doesn't buy that call.
He did, though.
His pivot foot was stationary.
In front of the 4th sellout of the season in 4 home games, 19,763. Hubert Davis, Charles Smith continuing to limp on that sprained left ankle. Ewing wide open. Patrick Ewing gives the Knicks an 11-point margin.
Now, one of the big surprises for the Magic is Dennis Scott coming in tonight averaging 20 a game. He's 1 for 7.
4 Knicks with 5 fouls. Right now they're hanging on.
Long distance shooting information showing the Magic 1 for 8 tonight. The Knicks 0 for 2. But 3-point shooting is very important to the Orlando Magic. But not tonight. They are not getting it done. Dennis Scott 17 for 34 coming in tonight. The team has made 27. Anderson after that has made 7 this season. They're the main 2.
Scott is killing Orlando offensively. He's 1 for 7. How about 1 for 8 on that running miss? Knicks enjoying a 12-5 run, shutting down Orlando after they came within 4, 74-70. Shaquille on Charles Smith. Ewing is there. Charles Smith still hobbling a bit. Ewing not defending O'Neal at the other end with 5 personal fouls. Ewing, Blackman, Rivers, and Smith all with the 5. And Doc keeps it up and it drops.
What a shot! Trying to go with that foul call to make it a shooting foul, as most players do. And he kept going with the move and threw a right-handed shot as his body is falling down left from about 23 feet off the backboard and in, and it doesn't matter. So why talk about it?
It never happened. Skiles with his 5th foul. Ewing. O'Neal follows up as it rolls off the rim. 2 minutes to go. Counting it down here at the Garden. 2 minutes. Shaquille O'Neal guarded by Smith. Way outside is Anderson. Ewing with the big board. Reminder to stay tuned for what should be a very interesting post-game press conference with Knicks coach Pat Riley. Charles Smith over Jeff Turner. What a difficult time it must have been for Pat Riley with those 3 players who have been in question all night, Starks, Anthony, and Mason, when Orlando came within 4. But the Knicks that he stuck with have responded. A wild shot from outside. Wide open is Turner. 86-75. 70 seconds to go. And a foul in the backcourt.
Orlando Magic come in tonight averaging over 115 points a game. They've yet to score under 100 in the game. And they're only 3/4 of the way to 100 right now with 1 minute and 9 seconds left. 75 points only for the Orlando Magic.
Doug Skiles fouls out. And another foul. Chris Porciani checking in. Nick Anderson is called for the foul. That's his 5th. A tightly whistled game tonight.
Well, if this Knicks team had the blues after their trip, and you know they did as they flew cross country all day yesterday, this game is going to go a long way to helping them solve those feelings. Well,
Hubert Davis came off the bench tonight, hit his first 4, then missed his next 4. Makes the free throw 87-75.
Played a lot of point guard tonight and did a fine job.
Barring Wilt Chamberlain getting up from the chair next to us, John, it looks as though the Knicks will have their 5th straight game under 100 points. Even though it will be enough for victory. Turner's all-medal. Rolando Blackman starting for the first time tonight. 6 of 17, 14 points. Not nearly the types of shooting numbers that the Knicks expect from him. But finally a healthy Blackman. Finally a starting Rolando Blackman.
And he got the team off strongly with his offense.
Patrick Ewing over Shaquille O'Neal. Ewing with 15 points, 9 rebounds.
Forciani with a lovely drive. Fearless.
Charles Smith fouled by Jeff Turner. 23.6 seconds to go. Scott Skiles fouling out a moment ago. From the court book, we pull out this one. We're making a big mistake if we put all our eggs in Shaq's basket. We can't ask a 20-year-old to carry us. But I don't get the feeling that they asked him, at least in this game, to carry them at all.
No, it's a press reaction to O'Neal. A most dominant player throughout his brief college career. Unlimited skills and unlimited potential. And it was a good statement by his teammate to try and get him to relax and not worry about carrying the team.
As a matchup goes, it's difficult to gauge O'Neal and Ewing for extended periods. Ewing did not guard Shaquille O'Neal tonight. It was Charles Smith against O'Neal for a large part of the time. It was Herb Williams against O'Neal. Manny Gukas pulls him. 18 points, 17 rebounds, 4 fouls for Shaquille O'Neal, and a few turnovers at last count were 5 for Shaquille O'Neal tonight. Final seconds of this one. Nick Anderson. That goes out of bounds. Eric Anderson back into the lineup for the Knicks.
For Matt Gukas, Al, you're more concerned about Dennis Scott and Nick Anderson tonight. Why they didn't have big games.
Well, John, Nick Anderson, 9 of 18, 27 points. It was a pretty quiet 27.
Yeah,
I mean,
that's a solid game. It really points to Dennis Scott.
For Dennis Scott, 1 of 8.
Correct myself on that.
Doc Rivers fouls out. That is the 6th foul for Doc Rivers. And now Tony Campbell has to re-enter the game for the last 2.7.
Well, Pat Riley with a very big disciplinary decision tonight gets it to go his way. He succeeds in having his team pull out a very impressive victory here tonight to the division leading Orlando Magic.
Magic will fall to 5-3. With New Jersey losing tonight, the Knicks will nuzzle up right next to them with a record of 5-4. Next up for Shaquille, it's Akeem Olajuwon on the 25th of the month. Well, the Knicks with the big lead in the 3rd quarter see the Orlando Magic roar back to within 4, but to the credit of the players that Pat Riley had, not amongst them Greg Anthony, John Starks, Anthony Mason, or Charles Oakley, who was ejected in the 2nd quarter. The Knicks hold on to beat the Orlando Magic tonight at Madison Square Garden, 92-77. Still perfect at the Garden, these Knicks are, and an interesting post-game report to follow with Bruce Beck and Pat Riley's post-game conference.
I was gonna hit the Foot Locker for the new Nike Air Maestros, but then I thought, how much do I know about these kids? So I called famous point guard John Stockton and asked him to demo them for me. Then I hear only Foot Locker's got the Nike Flight 89, so I get old John on the horn again. So for new Nike, you know what to do.
Just go to Foot Locker.
The new Nike basketball shoes at Foot Locker, where it all begins.
John, is that you?
We chose AT&T because our 800 service is our front door. If it shuts down, we shut down.
To us, a single 800 call could be worth thousands of dollars. If a customer dials our 800 number and can't get through, it's like telling them to take their business somewhere else. When you have competition like I do, you better be there for your customers.
Giving beats everything. Giving makes you feel.
The Orlando Magic's 92-77. And at Madison Square Garden tonight, there were a lot of stars. There was no Starks, no Anthony, and no Mason. As it appears, Coach Pat Riley benched the players because of disciplinary reasons. Still, the Knicks came up big without Patrick Ewing, who sat out over 8 minutes in the ball game. Herb Williams responded. Charles Oakley was tossed early. The Magic made a run late, cutting the lead to 4. But down the stretch, the Knicks hung on. They opened up a commanding lead, and they win it by 15 to snap a 3-game losing streak. The leading scorer summary brought to you by your Tri-State Jeep and Eagle dealers. There's only one Jeep, and it's only at your Tri-State Jeep and Eagle dealers. Smith leading the way with 26. Blackman had 16. Rivers and Ewing with 15 apiece. For the Orlando Magic, it was Anderson with 27, Turner had 18, and Shaquille O'Neal had 18 points and 17 boards in his Garden debut. A short break, back with more of our postgame show, including Pat Riley's press conference in just a moment.
King of beers.
When I was a kid, I could always tell who made my sandwich. Mom made boring stuff, like peanut butter. But when Dad made my sandwich, it was incredible. Well, I just tasted Roy Rogers' new sourdough club with ham and turkey and Swiss and tomato and bacon on toasted sourdough bread. Man, it really took me back, because those days Dad made my sandwich were great, except those were usually the days he dressed me, too.
Knicks win it by 15. Coach Pat Riley addressing the press.
We had some guys step up offensively and do some things, and maybe shook that slump a little bit. So we had 9 out of our next 13 games at home, and it was time to make a move and try to break through some of the inconsistent play. So it's time for us to grow.
Pat, did you feel if you made Shaquille take anything but layups and dunks, you might have a chance to...
He's just so strong. I mean, he is so strong that, our guys, as you could see, were sitting on the bench on a regular basis. He is just impossible to stop from a physical standpoint, especially if, the whistle's going against you. We mixed it up with some things that we did defensively. We came back and began to trap a little bit, showed him some of that from different angles. But with the exception of the middle of the third quarter, where I think the game got away, and really got away, and it was stopped, every minute, that we had the game in control. And we showed a lot of savvy, I think, in coming back once they cut it to 4. So it was just a great win.
As a first impression, if you force him 10, 12 feet out,
you got to get him out of the paint. And the only way you can get him out of the paint is you got to be strong. You got to have some strength and leverage just to get him out of the post. And then you got to give him a few different looks. But, we forced him to take some tougher shots. Anything he gets with his head under the rim, we saw what happened. So he's a great young talent.
Pat, could you address the benching of 3 players tonight for suspension?
For what?
Suspension ramp.
Who did? Who did?
I believe that was, I heard him talk about it tonight.
Let's just say that, it was a growth change, okay? And that's all. The team's trying to grow. We're trying to grow. They're trying to grow as young players. We really needed to take a hard look at our efficiency over the 8 games that we have played. We have been very inconsistent and not very efficient as a team. And I just felt it was time for a change. And let's just put it at that, you know, a growth change. On the fact that they didn't get into the game, you can make out any way you want, but it was not what you said it was.
How would you have sacrificed the defeat to get this message across?
You know, I'll make one statement about that. You know, John and Greg and Mace are the future of this team, and they're young players, and they're talented young players, and they are young players, and the integrity of the team transcends any individual and athletic performance, period. The integrity of the team is having, you know, a fine sense of one's obligation to that team, to make that team function. And so it was a growth change, it was an efficiency change for growth, and maybe it was a maturity change too. So they were not benched, they were out of the rotation, and if I felt that I really needed them tonight, they were ready to play. So it wasn't that. I just changed the rotation.
Pat, is that something that would continue?
Let's comment about the win, okay? And I mean, Rolando had a great night. You know, Herb Williams came in as a backup center and held the fort for us. You know, I know you think that might be the story, but the story tonight is about the win. And you know, guys are in and out of the rotation all the time, and you know, let's just leave it at that.
Is Hubert Davis at the point something we may be seeing more and more?
He plays with a lot of savvy there. We saw that against Boston, and he can handle that. He can't handle a lot of decision-making and playmaking at that job, but he can get the ball into the set and get it into play, and he makes very good decisions. He's an excellent passer, so I think we can hold the fort with Hubert, or even John, for that matter, if we need that.
Is Hubert ahead of schedule in your mind?
Hubert's right on schedule. You know, he's a great young player. He's a great young player, and he plays with a lot of poise and a lot of confidence. His strength as a player is in his quietness, you know, and that is something that he could teach a lot of our players.
Not given the win tonight, to continue this rotation for a couple of games.
I don't know. You know, we just, you know, play it by ear. I just felt a change was necessary. We were just stuck in mud, and we just were not efficient, and we just needed something, you know, to shake us up and get us going.
Seeing Rolando have his most productive game, it's got to be encouraging to see how the offense flows when he's in there with that.
Well, I thought we played a smart game tonight. You know, we made good plays, I think, for the most part. You know, we didn't force the action. Open men were hit when they were open, and I think that's what I saw and liked the best tonight. You know.
Coming off a tough road trip, you know, you lost the 3 straight, only 1 day's rest, a lot of adversity. It makes it more satisfying to win the night as well.
Yeah, for a lot of reasons. For a lot of reasons. It was just nice. It's an early season dilemma that we're in, okay? We got hit by some adversity, and you always want to see how you grow out of adversity. You know, there's always a seed of equivalent benefit in that adversity if you can win. And so for one night, you know, we got through, you know, the doldrums, and it's a great opportunity for us to move on right now. I thought Charles Smith, you know, came alive, and, you know, not being able to play, you know, Charles more than maybe 15 or 16 minutes in that other rotation really didn't give him a chance. And I thought tonight he showed what he can do for us. And, you know, so that was a very positive thing. So there was a lot of good things about the win tonight.
And the Coaches Conference has been brought to you by Air France. So the Knicks winning it tonight over Orlando, 92-77. When we come back, we'll talk to Charles Smith, who had a big ball game to lead New York. The Coke player of the game, Charles Smith. He finishes with 26 points and 10 boards, 10 for 15 from the field. He also had 2 blocks, and he did a terrific job in the second half. Here's the Knicks working the ball around. Patrick Ewing getting it down low, looking for a feed. Smith goes to the hoop, takes the pass back from Patrick Ewing, and he goes up strong for 2 of his 26. And Charles joins us now courtside. Well, you got some minutes tonight, and you got some shots.
Yeah, that's basically what I needed. You know, it's tough. You know, Coach is in a tough situation because we have a lot of talent on this team, and we're still searching and reaching for a rotation, a unit. So, you know, I just, like all the other players, have to bear with it. You know, he's got a tough decision. He's got a hard job, and we're just going to work our way through it.
After that disappointing road trip, both team-wise and personally, how did you break out tonight?
Well, you know, I talked to the coach before the game, and they told me that they'd play me at some 3 tonight. And, you know, they told me if I get the shot, you know, shoot it. And that's all I need to hear, really.
What happened to your ankle?
Shaq fell on it. That's basically it. 300 pounds just fell on it.
What'd you think of O'Neal?
Oh, he's a great player. He's very talented. He's got a lot of skills. He's very strong. He can run the floor. He's going to obviously be a great force in this league, and it's tough playing against him.
Now, what do the players know about the fact that the 3 other ball players, Mason and Anthony and Starks, didn't play and were benched tonight?
Well, you know, that's something, you know, that's something Coach is doing. Like I said, he's trying to reach and search for a rotation, and you know, we all have to live with his decisions, and you know, it might be somebody else later on. We don't know how it's going to go, but those guys are very strong. They supported us through the course of the night and really rallied behind us, and we got the victory tonight.
Charles, congratulations, fine ball game.
Oh, thanks a lot.
So Charles Smith, our player of the ball game, finishes with 26, his best outing as a Knick. New York snapping a 3-game losing streak at the Garden. We'll be right back.
12 rebounds, 7 points. The swipe by Anthony. Knicks by 4.
The dunk of the game is brought to you by Budweiser, the king of beers. The only beer with the taste as genuine as the people who drink it. Nothing beats a Bud.
And the dunks of the game all put together by Shaquille O'Neal. O'Neal finishes with 18 points and 17 boards, and Michael Kay joins us now. Michael, did you talk to the players who sat the fine tonight?
Sure did, and they all gave very terse, no comments. That's a coach's decision. John Starks had a little bit of a smile, but you know that if Riley is disciplining or trying to teach them a lesson, that they are not going to say anything, because that will get them a further stay on the bench.
And in the coaches' conference, Pat said that it was just a change of rotation.
He pretty much said it was a maturity thing, too. I think he wants them to mature, and he didn't like some of the things he saw out on the West Coast, and he sat them down. I think that's the biggest and best message that you can give to a player, and I think those players all got the message very loud and clear this evening.
Well, we heard it was a disciplinary thing. Your thoughts?
Well, you know, I think that if it is a disciplinary thing, these guys want to play. You know, they've spent a lot of time, 2 guys in the CBA, and then 1 guy's a youngster, a second-year player, and they will conform to whatever Riley wants now. They say that he was willing to give away a game tonight just to make his point. He certainly did that.
Herb Williams, big role tonight for the Knicks off the bench, and certainly the trade to get Herb meant something here.
Oh, it was great. He did the best job against Shaquille O'Neal, and he was just raving about him in the clubhouse. He said that he has never seen a player like that with that type of strength other than Darryl Dawkins. He said he just pushes you around. He said the best way to defend him, and he was very serious about this, was to foul him. He said because he's so poor from the free throw line, that's probably your best bet to stop him.
So he's got something along with Wilt Chamberlain, and you know there's a parallel in that area as well.
Absolutely, and he said that's the best way because he finishes off very well. He said so you've got to really body him, and if you've got to foul him, we'll send him to the line.
You know, you talked to Chuck Daly, I know, during the week, and he mentioned to you something about defensing O'Neal and how Ewing would have difficulty.
Well, I talked to Chuck Daly this morning at their shoot-around, the net shoot-around at the Meadowlands, and he said, to tell you the truth, if the officials call the game the way they should call the game, Ewing will have a lot of difficulty. He simply cannot handle Shaquille O'Neal's skills. And if you look at what happened today, Ewing did have some difficulty in the locker room just now. Ewing said, listen, I always hear these things, well, it's Akeem against Patrick, and and it's David against Patrick, and now it's Shaquille against Patrick. He said, listen, it's the Knicks against the Magic. The Magic lost the game. The Knicks won. He said, I think that Shaquille did a good job. He's going to be a good player. But I thought what Chuck Daly said was very illuminating. He said, listen, there's no way that a Patrick Ewing can match up physically with a Shaquille O'Neal. He says, if the officials call the game the way it should be called, Ewing will foul out. Ewing did not see much time tonight against O'Neal, so Chuck Daly knows what he's talking about.
Well, Rolando Blackman, first start of the year for him, and he's starting to get his wind back. He hit a couple of jump shots. He's going to feel good after this ball game.
He was talking in the locker room about how good he felt. And believe me, it makes the Knicks feel good as well, because they are having problems putting the ball in the basket, especially from the perimeter, and that's one of the reasons they got Rolando Blackman. And tonight he was filling it up. It opens things up underneath for the other players, like Charles Smith.
By the way, Charles Oakley, I spoke to him in the locker room before, and he said there was the first technical call. Then the second one was kind of a phantom technical called by the referee. He said, Shaq came over to him and said, don't block me out. And he looked back at him and said, what? And the next thing you know is he got the tee, and he was gone, and he was bewildered in the locker room.
Well, I think that what the officials were trying to do, I was very close to the action over there, they were just trying to stop anything. They didn't want to have any fight. They didn't want any verbal words. And right over there, they're stopping Oakley before anything further can go on.
He can't believe it.
He cannot believe it, but you can't open your mouth. And the Knicks have gotten a reputation around the league in the last year or so, talking some trash. You saw that go on in the Clipper game in Los Angeles, and I think that the officials know that that's been going on. They're trying to cut it out, and they stopped Oakley before anything got out of hand.
MSG Sports Desk with Mike Crispino coming up at 11:30 tonight. We'll take a short break. We'll be back with more of our post-game wrap-up from the Garden, so stay right there.
Lots of people say to me, Ivan, you play like you have ice water in your veins. Not so. It's Snap-Up, America's best-tasting all-natural sports drink. Snap-Up replaces what my body burns when I play. And I play hard. Snap-Up has no artificial flavors, colors, or ingredients. And best of all, it's from Snapple. So if I was at a tournament that for some strange reason did not have Snap-Up, I might get angry. They don't like to see me angry.
A noble warrior advised, the art of protection springs from within. One must stay vigilant against one's unfragrant perspiration, lest one provoke a hostile response. Thus, a Norse ritual is right guard sports stick. An aromatic array of the freshest scents and maximum protection against disarming wetness. Confirming the wisdom, the best defense is not to offend. Right guard sports stick. Anything less will be uncivilized.
Hey, John Elway, where does a Bronco explode on Sunday night? In your face. Bob Golan, where can I see shocking Raiders? In your face. ESPN Sunday Night NFL. Every week, it's where the best go face-to-face. In your face. In your face.
When the moon comes out, ESPN is in your face.
Bruce Beck back at Madison Square Garden, where the Knicks have snapped a 3-game losing streak and have knocked off Shaquille O'Neal and the Orlando Magic by 15. Time for a look back at the highlights of this ball game. And the highlights tonight brought to you by Minolta, creators of the world's most responsive SLR cameras, the new Maxim XI series. Well, on the bench tonight, Mason and Anthony and Starks, but still the Knicks able to work the ball to Patrick Ewing, who connects over the Shaq to put the Knicks up 22-15. Second quarter action. Watch top of the screen. O'Neal and Oakley with some pushing. Oakley eventually ejected from this ball game. Knicks had 4 technicals in the first half. And Charles was bewildered. Ewing works it to Charles Smith, who had a big ball game tonight. Watch the feed by Patrick. New York goes up 61-41. In the fourth quarter of play, the Magic on the run. And watch the Shaq attack as he cuts the lead to 9 with the dunk here. 70-61 New York. But after the Knicks watched their lead cut to 4, they hung on down the stretch, moved the ball well, and Charles Smith filled it up to the tune of 26 points. O'Neal with 18 points and 17 boards. Not a bad debut, but certainly not enough as the Magic dropped to 5-3 on the season. John Andres joins us now. And John, what's your reaction to Pat Riley's press conference?
Well, Pat chose to verbalize his moves tonight in a way of changing the rotation. That's just his way of expressing the benching of Anthony Mason and Greg Anthony and John Starks. He hasn't been happy with some off the court and on the court yapping by the players, and he just chose tonight to sit them down, although he did say that he would have used them had he needed them in the stretch, although there was certainly no sign of that.
Well, Al Trautwig certainly with a conflicting report earlier saying that he heard from a high-level source that this was a disciplinary action based on the fact of the trash talking in Los Angeles.
Well, I don't think there's any question that it was a disciplinary action. That was clear. Actions do speak louder than anything any of us can say. Anthony Mason's been playing more minutes than anyone on the team thus far except Patrick Ewing. For him not to be playing, it certainly reflects a disciplinary action. And Greg Anthony's been very important to the team, and certainly John Starks has. Despite his play of late, he's still a very important part of this team. And Pat made that clear by saying these three are the future of the franchise. So it was disciplinary.
Some things came out of this game, though. First of all, Rolando Blackman, first start, gets comfortable, starting to get in shape, and they really need his outside shooting.
Well, right away, Bruce, he stepped right into it and showed that he was here to play tonight. It was his first start, as you mentioned, and he showed he was up to it, too, with his fine play. He's not the Rolando Blackman of all-star status yet, but he's a lot closer. He has made giant strides in 1 week, and now Pat Riley obviously can feel very comfortable in using him.
John, quick thoughts on two other players. Herb Williams.
I thought his play was tremendous tonight. I mean, how many years have we seen guys come in off the end of the bench, the very end, when the Knicks needed backup center play, and have Pat Riley kind of hold his breath, or whoever was here in the coaching position, hoping that they could get some kind of play. They got quality play out of Herb Williams, and that's why he's here as a member of the Knicks, and I think Pat Riley has to be delighted with Herb Williams' play. He's an NBA meaningful player.
And obviously Charles Smith also big tonight with the 26-point effort in 32 minutes as he gets his longest stint of the year, and he responds. We'll be back with more from the Garden, so don't go away.
Brother, get mad. It pays.
Does it seem as though the world is being drawn together? Or have you simply discovered a better way to get around? Air France. Ask the world of us.
Hey, Herbert Fisher. Have you met Herb Grant? Herb Grant, Tacoma. Herb's in the plumbing business. Yeah, I'm all backed up.
Herb, you know these bums? Herb Riddick, Herb Kaplan.
Hi. So, the wife and kids are good? Herb Jr.'s almost 12. Whoa, next thing you know, there'll be a Herbert Jr. Jr.
If it's out there, it's in here. The 9X Yellow Pages. Why would anyone need another?
Knicks win it 92-77. They improved to 5-4. The Magic dropped to 5-3. More Knicks basketball coming up on Tuesday when the Knicks take on the Washington Bullets. It begins with game night. And next on MSG, it's Sports Desk, the half-hour edition with Mike Crispino. Rangers and NHL action, Mike Quick's high school report, and the day in college football, including Miami and Syracuse. For Al Trautwig and John Andres and Walt Klein Frazier, I'm Bruce Beck. Thanks for joining us, and good night from Madison Square Garden.
For me, it's another game. But, you know, for the people, it's Patrick Ewing, a great center, and Shaquille O'Neal, an upcoming great center. People want to see a good game. New York. I'm in New York. I wear Ray-Bans because they're the best.
Shaquille, can I have an autograph, please? Remember us, man.
Just you in the garbage, man.
Should be a great matchup. The first time I have a chance to see O'Neal against another great center, and it's going to be very interesting.
That's a great player, bro. I keep telling y'all that. At the start, I was rushing my shots.
Shaquille's a great player. He works hard. He's big, strong. I wish him a lot of luck.
Scott Skiles brings it up now for the Magic. Spins, drives the lane, almost has it taken away. Inside to O'Neal. O'Neal spins, turns, and right over Herb Williams. Oh.
He's more or less an unstoppable player. You just have to try to contain him the best you can.
I'm hustling, you know, I'm playing hard, I'm having fun, and, you know, that's what it's all about.
The guy's a monster, and he wears a great leather coat, too. Shaq finished with 18 points and 17 boards. Ewing had 15 points, 9 boards, and a 15-point New York win. But the interesting thing is, it's amazing.
You lied on me. I thought we was cool.
Yo, bring it on, man.
Yeah, I'm going to bring it. I'm going to bring it. You ain't said nothing but a word. Freddie Roddick was afraid of you.
I'm going to knock you out.
He was a chump. You ain't knock nothing out, bomb.
Now, is that beneath the new champion of the world to get himself into something like that?
No, not really. I think, you know, being hyper, you know, after the fight, feeling good and, you know, getting out of the ring, and that's the first person I saw and what have you. I know that Lennox has said a lot of negative things about me. And, he's not the man I thought he was. He's not an honest person.
You have no apologies for that moment?
No, I do not. And I'm going to show you what type of apologies I have when he gets in that ring.
Whenever that might be.
He's going to be sorry.
Yeah. Although the other one, of course, is the less attractive one that happened even before this fight, and that was the press conference with Lennox Lewis. And this is when there was really a lot of name-calling going. I want you to take a look back at those moments, and we'll talk a little bit about your relationship. Here it is.
Don't be whispering here. Talk loud.
Yeah, I did predict that Holyfield would win because I wanted him to win, because I knew that Riddick was going to try and sidestep me like he's doing.
Sidestep you? Man, is you crazy? Well, I ain't never run from a good fight in my life. I got sisters who can whoop you. You better be quiet. You crazy.
Anyway, I'm out of here.
Get on out of here with your ugly self, then. With your big feet self. You too, Pappy, with your ugly self. I like your ponytail, Lenny. You big faggot. You know why I say that? Because I wasn't afraid.
Now, there are people who say, come on, you wouldn't, but that's really lowering yourself. You shouldn't.
Well,
no name calling.
Well, actually, I was having fun out there and what have you. And then you know me, I really didn't mean anything by it, but if Lennox wants to, you know, I figure when we do fight, that'll give him something to fight hard about.
Were you impressed, though, with the way he fought Ruddock? I mean, you have to be impressed with what he showed you something maybe you didn't see before.
Well,
right?
let me say this. I think Ruddock was trying to intimidate Lewis, and in the process, by Lennox being cool and what have you, he got intimidated. So I think that made the fight turn out the way it did.
Lastly, before we move on, we have a bunch of other things to talk about in the next segment. George Foreman, the story is $18 million. But there are other people. Come on, the guy's 44 years old. What about Michael Moorer? What about some of these other fighters legitimately?
What about him?
Well, I mean, why not take on somebody that the public would recognize as a real test? George is a wonderful guy. He's got a 3-fight deal with HBO. But George really wouldn't stand up against you. You guys know
Well,
that.
I look at it like this in this aspect. Again, boxing is a business, and I don't know if a lot of people understand that. And I think my people feel like, you know, we can get the most out of fighting a guy like George Foreman. I mean, again, I'm looking forward to fighting anybody in the top 10.
You don't care about being stripped or anything like that?
Well, I do care about being stripped. I'm the undisputed heavyweight champion of the world, and I would love to keep my titles, and I'm going to try to do whatever.
Newly crowned heavyweight champ Riddick Bowe made a triumphant return home today. Bowe was honored with a parade through the streets of his native Brooklyn and made several other appearances around town. He announced both he and his wife plan to return to college at Washington's Howard University and part as an example to children. On the schedule tonight, Islanders are at Winnipeg, Nets at Seattle, and we've got the Knicks hosting Washington next, live here on MSG.
Time on Saturday, and Charles took charge. Coming up, we'll look at the benching, or whatever you want to call it. Bob Page is at the sports desk as the Rockets add to the struggle of the Celtics.